Good morning. Good day. Welcome to the Father's Rock event. Come on in. Good morning. Good morning. I already love the interaction. Yes. Please drop in the chat where you are tuning in from. Come on in. Come on in. We give it a minute or two for you all to arrive. Take a big breath because you are in for a treat. England, yeah, wonderful. Berlin, that's wonderful. The Germans among you will know this. I do have a German accent as well. Good morning from Austria, yes. In fact, my accent is not German, it's Austrian. It's German, Austrian, Italy. Buongiorno. I love to see we have this amazing international participation. Hello, good morning, everyone. Come on in. Bonjour, we have Paris. Wonderful. Good morning. Wonderful. I'm excited to see you all. I'm greeting you this morning with a non-binary Australian artist, Tash Sultana. And if anyone is interested later, I can drop music links in the chat. But of course, it's not about the music today. It is about Father's Rock. I'm slowly fading out Tash and welcome you all. My name is Daniela Jaug Ejami. Just call me Danny. I have the big honor to moderate today and to guide you through this most exciting day. I am tuning in from Ohio, United States. It is 5 a.m. over here, but I am pumped to be with you. I'm connected to Father's Rock because I worked closely with one of the project partners. I have worked with other project partners for events before. So I'm just really honored to be with you, excited because this is some cutting edge research in praxis we get to learn about today. A very practical project, very out there, unheard of really in the United States. We are looking to the European Union and its research and practices to learn how to foster caring masculinities, and here today how to foster caring masculinities in perinatal care. Welcome to the online conference, Raising Engagement and Accountability of Men in Their Pathway for Becoming Caring Fathers. This is an event of the Father's Rock Project that began in February 2022 and brings together 5 partners from Spain, Italy, Austria, and Germany that have been very busy the last 2 years, developing training materials and doing events and consciousness raising work, research in their countries. The European Commission chose to support it with its Citizens Equality Rights and Values program, the SERVE program. So the part you will meet all the partners. This is so exciting. You will meet all the partners that have been collaborating on this project, which is the Fundación Blanquerna, a university-based research institute in Spain, Connexus, an NGO also based in Spain, the CAM, Centro di Ascolto Uomini Maltrattanti on Luz from Italy, the Association for Men and Gender Issues in Austria, which I am emotionally connected to, and the Work with Perpetrators Network, the European Network for the Work with Perpetrators of Domestic Violence, WWP, that works out of Germany and Europe, And you will hear me say that more often. But Dimitra Mintzidis, Anna McKenzie, and Dure Mirza from the European Network for Work with Perpetrators have been doing the heavy lifting for this event since months. Leading up to this event, the last few days, you will see their names and their input in the chat throughout the day more often. They are really the people we should applaud to today, especially as they work for us. Um, the project is not only special because it's transnational, it's special because it's also transdisciplinary. It brings together NGO experts, frontline services, and researchers to research and share their insights, but also to develop interventions and really promote social change on the ground in the prevention of gender based violence through the engagement of fathers while enhancing children's and mothers' well being and safety. So it really benefits everyone. It is a win 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 situation for individuals, families, and society. Let me share the agenda with you and give you a quick overview what you can expect today. Also, I want to invite you to drop questions in the chat at any time. Our wonderful WWP network is in the background and will forward that for me, even though even I might be too distracted to see it right away. I have prepared the agenda for you. Let's take a look what's happening today. You can see the event is 6 hours long. Fear not, because it will be very interesting. It will be very engaging. And the design is such that there is never a presentation longer than 20 minutes. These are short, engaging inputs. Some have even interactive exercises and will challenge you to think. With the presenters, you will meet, as I said, all the partners today. We have words of welcome from the director of WWP. We are we are excited to have the European Commission also represented in the morning. The sessions are broken up by Q&A sections where you are particularly invited to drop um, your questions and comments. We have interspersed short breaks, and towards noon here, you see the motivators in the engagement of men. Two of the sessions are a little bit longer with 30 minutes, but these are panels where the partners are in conversation with each other about around specific topics. We have a lunch break at 12:40 that is almost an hour long, a little bit of a warm up session, 10 minutes of warm up after the lunch breaks for you to come back and arrive. I will be here and I will invite you for a couple stretching exercises, show you a couple special tricks to enhance focus. So you really want to come back after lunch and hear more project partners, couple more 20-minute inputs. And in the very end, I prepare you. We will switch from Teams to Zoom. Not a problem. Post-pandemic, we can work with all applications. I will guide you through this step by step. We switch to Zoom because it has better functionality for a virtual world cafe we have prepared for you, where you get to talk to all the project partners, to the researchers, to the practitioners. This is a practical project. This is where you get to really take away tidbits for your own context, for your own community, for your own life. And at 16 o'clock, 4 p.m., in my terms, we do closing and evaluations, but I will invite you to drop evaluations before. hand as well if you need to leave early. I have to apologize if my voice is raspy. Yesterday I came down with a severe cold just in time, but I'm well equipped with tea and with lozenges. We should be fine. I would, speaking of special tricks, I would also like to show you how you can translate this event for your purposes and your language of choice. You are in the application Teams and you have the three magic dots on top of your screen that says more. I'm going through this slowly so you can follow along. Please go to the three dots, more. You will here see a language and speech drop down menu. It's the fifth from the top under the three dots, more, language and speech. And you can turn on live captions. That means it is a live transcription of the spoken word in the meeting. Turn on live caption and check this out. I did not know it. I learned this from Anna McKenzie. You can choose a language. Teams will automatically translate for you. How cool is that? So you will put in the spoken language, which will be English in our case. There will be some consecutive translation later in the event, but for the entirety of the event, please pick your own language. As our first speaker and to open the event, I will welcome Alessandra Bounce. She is the executive director of the WWP European Network. Alessandra has been working in the field of domestic violence for 20 years and has covered many areas of expertise. She advocated and worked for victims of domestic violence as a shelter worker, psychologist, researcher, manager, trainer, and in fund and consciousness raising at a local, provincial, regional, national, and as you see now, also European level. She actually founded and ran the first perpetrator program in Italy, CAM. And you will, that is also a partner in the event today, and set up a national Italian network for perpetrator work. It's called Relive. Please, Alessandra, take the stage and welcome us for this event.
Good morning to all, and welcome to this event around the Project Fathers Rock. It is my pleasure to be opening this event, and it has been a pleasure for WWP to be able to be present and participate in this project. Research and experience alike show us how relevant early engagement of fathers is in throughout from pregnancy to early childhood. And this project focuses on bringing this aspect to light and supporting fathers and service providers in being able to engage fathers. Those of us that work with perpetrators of domestic violence also know how much the aspect of being a better father and the concern for children is often one of the few motivators to engage with men around change for the use of their violence. So the tools that have been developed in this project, in Father Rock's project, by the partners of this project, are extremely relevant. They are geared towards engaging fathers, but also working with service providers to support them and to help them see the importance of this aspect. It is also important within this field, when we are addressing engaging fathers, to always remember the structural power imbalances that are constructed within a society where such a strong gender inequality still exists. This is also core to the Father's Rock project, and in some ways is quite implicit in the fact that we need a project to engage boys and men in taking on fairer amounts of care and work, care work, and highlighting how we still have great great road to be done before we can arrive to gender equality, and how much the care sphere, is linked to the social constructures of inequalities. So when we enter the terrain of couples having babies, we are entering a rigged terrain where there is an uneven playing field that has been determined by years of inequality that have shaped that specific relationship of that couple that we see. It is necessary that we always keep this in mind and that we never decontextualize what engaging fathers and men means within a social and cultural story. So the individual stories that we see, the individual couples that we meet, are contextualized within unequal structures of power. If I think back to my childbearing years, I would say that my husband ticked most of the boxes of a caring father, at least formally. He participated in the courses that we did in preparation of childbirth. He was present when our child was born, although he negotiated that he did not have to see the child coming into the world. He was soothing the baby while medical procedures were still ongoing and the baby was taken for being washed. He also managed to be adequate the first day that we were home from the hospital into caretaking. However, already on the second day, male privilege, invisible privilege kicked in. And the care aspect that had been so well stressed by the service providers suddenly became invisible again, and the needs of the mother and child became invisible in front of the pressing urges of work. If we think about the incidence of perpetration throughout Europe, between 20 and 50% of women have suffered violence from partners or ex-partners, and we know that pregnancy and the birth of a child can be a factor, a risk factor within this. So we know that there's going to be a very high incidence also of women that are suffering violence, men that are maybe starting perpetrating behaviors right within the window of when we're looking of engaging fathers and engaging them in care work. And this sort of but careful balance of addressing issues, because they're very prevalent, at the same time with the general population that isn't generally or shouldn't generally be assumed to be violent, is one of the challenges and difficulties of preparing the materials for this project and being able to address at the same time both on the one hand normal issues around male privilege and invisibility of that privilege to initial forms of violence, talking though to a general population that may not be violent. Some of these issues are always balanced and in tension. Some of the issues arose among our partners in the course of the project. And I think it's really important to highlight them because we always need to tread carefully in our newfound enthusiasm for paternity and father's involvement. Obviously, we have to stay positive. We know that it's something really important. It's important starting from issues around equality to increase equality between women and men in the caretaking. But we know It also increases the well-being of children, the well-being of men, the well-being of mothers. So there's definitely a lot to look at positively for all that are involved. But we do need to be careful that our rhetoric around engaging father and fatherhood never overshadow the systematic oppression of mothers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alessandra Bounce, Executive Director of WWP, for this powerful opening that has really set the stage in a very complex and important way. Next, I'm really excited to have Kalina Lewanska with us. She comes to us from the European Commission, the Directorate General for Justice and Consumers, from the Gender Equality Policy Unit. She will share an institutional address as she is the policy and program assistant, and she closely follows and coordinates whatever is going on in the field of gender equality and gender-based violence in the European Union from a policy point of view. And the program, a European program, the Citizens' Equality Rights and Values Program, has also funded the Fathers Rock project. And Kalina Lewanska can tell us more about the European agenda to prevent and combat domestic violence. Take it away, Kalina.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting the Commission to present our European agenda to prevent and combat domestic violence and the latest developments in the area. So, first of all, I would like to thank for carrying out this project that is important for our policy making. As it identifies risks of domestic violence and works with fathers to prevent domestic violence. So this is vital to increase the safety of women and children and the well-being of all family members, and this includes also men. To allow you to better follow the different initiatives that I would like to present to you, I will show a slide that is a summary of these initiatives. Yes, I hope you can see it now in a bigger format. Yes. So among our current policy initiatives, we have the EU Gender Equality Strategy that is running for 5 years until 2025. And this strategy forms the basis of the European Commission work on gender equality and sets out the policy objectives and actions for the period, for the reference period. So the main aim is to achieve a gender equal Europe where gender-based violence, sex discrimination and structural inequality between women and men are a thing of the past. And within the strategy, the first objective is to combat gender-based violence and stereotypes. And to illustrate shortly the need for action in the area, I would like to mention some key figures related to gender-based violence in the EU that have been collected by the European Union Agency for Fundamental Rights through a survey. And this survey showed that 1 in 3 women experienced sexual or physical violence since the age of 15, that 1 in 20 women experienced rape, 75% of women in qualified or management positions were sexually harassed, and 1 in 10 women was harassed through new technologies, so through internet mainly. And we know that in this area we have underreporting. So we believe that the real figures are even higher. So to follow with the next initiative, on a more global level, we have the Council of Europe Convention on Preventing and Combating Violence against Women and Domestic Violence, and we call it shortly the Istanbul Convention. And the EU acceded to it after years of negotiations on 1st October 2023. So it is quite recent. It was last year. With this accession, the EU is now bound by its ambitious and comprehensive standards in the area of prevention and combating violence against women. And this includes also judicial cooperation in criminal matters, asylum and non-refoulement with regard to Commission, to its administration. Currently, after the position of the instrument of accession, the Commission is discussing with the Council of Europe Secretariat the legal and practical implications of the EU accession. And this includes, for example, the voting mechanism and the EU financial contribution to the budget of the Convention. The next initiative is the new directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence, which is the specific EU initiative, which was proposed by the Commission in March 2022. And the negotiations, the discussions took until recently, so only on the 6th of February 2024, a political agreement between the co-legislators was found on this new proposal for directive. So the directive, when it will be officially adopted, it will introduce measures on harmonization of violence against women offenses, on protection of victims and access to justice, on victim support, on prevention, and coordination and cooperation. Among others, it will criminalize physical, psychological, economic, and sexual violence against women, both offline and online. Female genital mutilation and forced marriage are defined in the directive as stand-alone crimes. And the directive will be able to criminalize the most widespread forms of cyber violence, including the non-consensual sharing of intimate images. It includes also deepfakes, cyberstalking, cyber harassment, misogynist hate speech, and cyber flashing. The next initiative is the recommendation on harmful practices, and it's still in preparation, but it's upcoming. It will somehow be contributing, it will be completing the new directive in areas such as prevention, support, protection, and access to justice. So in this sense, this planned recommendation will identify concrete actions that member states are recommended to do to more effectively prevent and combat such harmful practices on the ground. And we plan to adopt it in the course of 2024. And finally, the next initiative I wanted to mention is the network of prevention of gender-based violence and domestic violence. It was also created quite recently, so in 2023, as one of the deliverables under the gender equality strategy. It had its first meeting end of November 2023, and this meeting covered the topic of early prevention mechanism and law enforcement. And the network is composed of permanent representatives from the EU member states authorities. But it is not a totally closed group. It's not limited to authorities because depending on the topics that will be discussed, to have better input, more meaningful participation, we also plan to invite other stakeholders. It will be depending on meetings on topics. And the next meeting of the network is planned for 10 and 11th of April in Brussels. And the topic will be engaging young people, in particular men and boys, role of education and digital media. We are happy to announce that now we have received nominations for permanent work members from all member states, and we look forward to the discussions at the next meeting. So to end my interventions, I would like to say that for us policymakers, it is important to learn from projects like yours. And I wish you good luck with the finalization of this project and with the sharing of results with relevant stakeholders. So here I will end and stop sharing the list of the initiatives. Thank you so much and good luck for today's event once more.
Thank you so much, Kalina Lewanska from the European Commission. It is just wonderful. I have to say that you are funding projects like this. And as I said earlier, I mean, I'm in the US based as a sociologist. We are looking to the European Union and the research you are bringing forth and funding to lead the way in regard to gender equality, and particularly the involvement of fathers and caring masculinities. And that's what comes next. You will meet your first project partner, and we will learn a little bit why fathers rock, and how we can foster fathers' engagement in the role of care in keeping mothers and children safe. We are meeting Berta Wall and Elena Lloberas, both from the Fundación Blanquerna, that is a research and education organization within the Faculty of Psychology, Education and Sports Sciences at Ramon Llull University in Barcelona, Spain. Berta Wall is the coordinator of the Fathers Rock project. She is an associate professor at the Faculty of Psychology, Education and Sports Sciences and has extensive experience in research on gender-based violence, specifically on programs for perpetrators of domestic violence. Elena Lloberas is also a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a researcher and project manager at the same department, Psych, Education, Sports Sciences, at Ramon Llull University in Barcelona, and she's also a member of the coordinating team of the Fathers Rock project. Please take it away, Berta and Elena.
Thank you. We will share the screen.
Yeah. Go.
Okay, so thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much to everyone for being here. We will describe a little bit today the objectives of the project. If we can go to the next slide. The, the main structure, the background of the project, the objectives, the actions that we have developed. And we also want to emphasize some of the achievements that we've reached through the project after these 2 years of developing this project, the outcomes, and the feedback that we have received also from the participants in the project. So the project in numbers. This project, as it has already been mentioned, has been funded by the European Commission. We've been developing the actions that I will explain in a moment during 2 years, and the project is finalizing now at the end of March. We had 4 countries collaborating in this project. We had Italy, Austria, Germany, and Spain, being Italy, Austria, and Spain the main implementing countries where we have developed most of the activities. Here you can see the logos of all the partners. In the partnership, we have mainly NGOs, experts on the treatment of perpetrators of domestic violence, but also NGOs, experts on caring masculinities. So as for the background of the project, why is this project important? Why did we wanted to develop the actions that I will explain in a moment? First of all, because we have the understanding that pregnancy or having small children is a moment of change, is a moment of crisis, but also at the same time, it can be an opportunity to engage these new fathers in gender equality and in social change. And I will explain now what do I mean with that. Although we know that there is rather high prevalence of violence during pregnancy. For example, there have been some studies that show that there is nearly 30% of women who are pregnant suffer emotional abuse. For the physical abuse, this decreases to more or less 40%, and sexual abuse, it reduces to 8%. So we know that pregnancy is a critical moment in which abuse can escalate or it can start. We also know that most of the services, perinatal services that are involved in pregnancy, childbirth, but also early childhood education services, they face challenges when they try to engage fathers in the caring role, and when they try to engage fathers in the services. So we also had this idea in mind that these key professionals were in a very good position to engage fathers in this caring and role aspect. We also started from the research that shows that fatherhood, becoming a father and wanting to be a good father, is a great motivator for men that are violent towards their partners to stop using this violence. And to try to reduce the impact of gender-based violence on their children. So we also know, as I was saying before, that it's a moment of crisis, pregnancy and childbirth, because as I have just shown, there is quite high prevalence of intimate partner violence, but it's also an opportunity because we know that fatherhood, it's a huge motivator for men. And also research shows that having fathers that are involved in the caring of the children, it's good for gender equality, it's good for women's health, and it can be linked to a reduction of the rates of the prevalence of men's violence against women. So this is the starting point of the project. And based on these needs and this background that we identified, we had 3 main objectives. So the first objective of the project was to increase safety of mothers and children through identifying and addressing risks of domestic violence in these perinatal services. As I was saying before, we identified perinatal and also early childhood education services as key professionals that can detect and intervene very early when the domestic violence starts to be present. Then our second objective was to increase the well-being of all family members and to improve or enhance healthy relationships by improving fathers' engagement through their inclusion within the relevant services. As I was mentioning before, we know that these key professionals sometimes have difficulties in engaging fathers. Sometimes these services are focused on the mothers. And so we also wanted to improve the capacity of these professionals to engage fathers in the services as a way to involve fathers more in the caring of the children. And then the third objective of the project was to increase the engagement of public institutions on improving perinatal and early childhood education services for fathers, for engaging and including fathers in the services. So for us, it was also important to reach, to try and enhance an institutional change, not just a social change with the professionals involved in the project and the fathers involved in the project, but also an institutional change that would help stabilizing these changes that we will promote with objective 1 and 2. So what is the structure of the project? What did we do to try and reach these aims? First of all, we designed a training, a capacity building program for perinatal and early childhood professionals. And this training had a twofold objective. On the one hand, we wanted to improve the capacity of professionals to identify risks and kinds of violence. For us, this was really important as a way to intervene in early days when domestic violence is happening. But also, the second part of the training was focused on improving the involvement of fathers in the service. To design this training, we did a lot of assessment of the needs of the professionals. And as it will be explained in a moment, we also try to adapt it to different types of professionals, as perinatal and early childhood professionals are rather different services. Then we implemented this capacity building with different professionals. I will explain a little bit more about the numbers that we reached in a moment. And then the second strategy of the project was also to develop groups of fathers. So we wanted to implement some groups of fathers within the services with this objective that I was mentioning before to improve the engagement of fathers in these services. And also these groups of fathers would promote this caring role of becoming fathers. And as the last action that we did, we developed a multi-agency model for intervening with fathers. And this model also reflects the objective that I was mentioning about involving institutions in the project. And the idea of this multi-agency model is to have a structured protocol on how the different services and the institutions can cooperate. So it's kind of a roadmap that also will be explained in a moment. So what are the main achievements of the project? They can be divided in these 4 different dimensions: the activities that we developed, the institutional engagement, the research, and the dissemination. So we had more than 100 participants in our trainings, including professionals and also fathers. We also had a great institutional impact. We developed several institutional roundtables during the project, and this format of roundtables proved to be very effective on having close discussions and agreements with institutions on how this multi-agency model that I was explaining could be implemented. We also did several presentations at different stakeholder meetings and scientific conferences. In terms of research impact, we had more than 300 participants answering to our research surveys. We have prepared 1 scientific article and 2 more are on the way. And in terms of dissemination, we did a lot of effort also on disseminating. And dissemination had different types of targets and strategies. We targeted services, so professionals working in the services. We also targeted fathers in our dissemination actions with the aim of involving them in the services and in the caring of the family. And we also targeted scientific professionals from the scientific field and also institutions. We reached more than 6,000 people through our dissemination actions. And we developed several creative and diverse dissemination actions and activities. I will show now in a moment one example of a card that we developed that the idea was to include these cards in the services, so to involve fathers in the caring of the family. We can see the card now. Yes, so this is one example, and this card was a way to engage fathers, and also we had the QR code with more information for fathers to see how they can be more involved and what are the benefits of their involvement.
Okay. Thank you, Berta. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to present the outcomes of the evaluations we carried out in the project. As Berta was saying, we conducted the capacity building program with the frontline professionals and also the fathers groups. And in both actions, we had pre and post evaluations, so we can like calculate the effect and the impact of the interventions. The capacity building program and the fathers groups were implemented in Austria, Italy, and Spain. So I will begin with the implementation of the capacity building program. It was designed, as Berta was saying, mainly, after my colleagues will explain more in detail the content of these implementations, but mainly we had these objectives of increasing the capacity of the professionals for detecting and referring gender-based violence to other services, and also how to engage the fathers in the services. So we were evaluating pre-intervention, these 4 dimensions: the knowledge, the actions, the values, and the readiness. how prepared they feel for doing these actions, which knowledge they have on how to detect the violence, where to refer these families. So these were the 4 main dimensions. And well, in future informs and papers, we will publish like the results more in detail. Here I'm just presenting like the outstanding results of the evaluations. So from the post evaluation, we can conclude that the professionals, they are feeling more ready to identify the risk of gender-based violence and safety to involve fathers in the services. They have improved their knowledge as well. They feel more prepared to activate procedures in situations of gender-based violence. And also they have improved their ability to empathize with the fathers and also recognize the difficulties they may be encountering in that moment. So regarding the feedback of the professionals, well, these data are from, mixing the data from the 3 implementing countries. The 86% of the participants rated the training with more than 4 out of 5. In all the 3 countries, the assessment of the training is higher than 4.2 out of 5. And the evaluation of the trainers is very good as well, because they were rated higher than 4.6. So in global, we could say that the professionals thinks that the capacity building program is useful for them. Now I talk about the outcomes of the fathers groups. In the evaluation of the fathers groups, mainly we were measuring one part the attitudes, and the other hand the role as a father. These were the 2 main dimensions of the evaluation. So again, these are the outstanding results. There are 2 main items, I would say, that were decreasing after the participation in the fathers groups. that were the agreement with the use of physical violence as an option to educate, and the agreement that woman's main objective is to take care of the family. I mean, we reach to change the values and the opinions of the fathers and what they think that has to happen, I mean, in the family, and how to educate the children. And one, two items that increased were the agreement that violent behavior is a choice. So it's a very good news, we would say, because they are more aware that they can choose how to act or not. And so they can feel also responsible of their actions. And also the increased agreement that the couple should have free time for themselves. So also this indicates that the fathers can feel more involved in the education of the children, that it's not only necessary for the woman to stay at home, would say, taking care of the family. So the feedback from the fathers after participating in the groups were that 91% of the participants say that the group of fathers has fulfilled their expectations well or very well. So the content we talk about in these groups were adequate for them. And the 85% of the participants say that the group went well or very well in terms of providing them useful tools for their role as a father. So, well, as I said, these are the outstanding results. We will present them more in detail in future papers and publications. Thank you very much for your attention. And, well, I can stop sharing my screen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Berta and Elena. We are doing so great on time, and we are now entering our Q&A session. I am not sure. I have our wonderful team from WWP has collected questions from the chat, and it's awesome, audience, how you are doing this. Yes, you can submit questions at any time during the event, and we will address them during the dedicated Q&A sessions. I do have a couple. Wonderful. Kalina is also here because I'm going to start with the questions for Kalina. There were a couple and then more for Berta and Elena. For Kalina now, can you share some insights what the new European Union directive includes regarding specifically working with perpetrators of gender-based violence? So for Kalina, the questions.
Yes. So I must confess that I am not the one of the key specialists from our team regarding the content of the directive. So I would need to refer it to my colleagues because I don't know, in fact, very much in details all the provisions. I only know the main provisions, and I mean those which were more discussed. It was related to Article 5, the definition of consent. That was very much discussed, and then also there were many discussions related to the online violence. Because it's a new emerging type of violence that the directive tried to address. There were discussions about this, but I would need to check. But I will, and I will come back to you, and I will be able to provide a detailed answer to this question, hopefully.
Thank you very much. I have one more question for you I come back to if we have time. So don't go anywhere, but we are going to jump right into the projects, Father's Rock. We have several questions as a follow-up to your excellent overview. Berta and Elena, people were very interested in the chat about the creative engagement methods, but also how many institutions were engaged on the capacity building part and what were their main areas of work.
So the main institutions that we reached, this will be explained more in detail when we explain the specific actions from the different partners that have been involved in the project. But we could already say that we involved at least 40 stakeholders in the different roundtables that we developed or that we undertake with institutions and with professionals. So yeah, mainly the institutions involved was usually the health department of the local or national government. And also in the case of Spain, we involved the feminist department because they are doing a lot of work on co-responsibility and involving fathers from the prevention, primary prevention perspective. So they were also involved together in our project. I think this was more or less the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And to follow up, dissemination and engagement activities. You showed us this postcard that was really wonderful. There is a specific question, if you could talk a little bit more about the creative and diverse dissemination activities. What sort of things did you do to get fathers engaged? And I personally would add, did you have to do things to get institutions and providers engaged? Were these two different levels of engagement, and how did you address them?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think also our colleagues can build on that also because we've been all of us involved, trying to involve all these stakeholders during the whole project. So for men, we developed this one or two cards basically that they were targeting specifically fathers. And the idea is that these cards, one of them I have already shown, they were available in the services, in the specific services, so men could, check the cards and be motivated to be involved in these fathers groups. One of the cards was focused more in the engagement in terms of caring roles and fatherhood and so on. And the other one was more focused, as I say, the project has this twofold objective. So the other card was more focused on preventing violence or motivating possible men that would have, or fathers that would have possible violent behavior to refer themselves to specialized services and to motivate them to go to specialized services. As I've said, some of our partners in the consortium, they provide specialized services for perpetrator programs. So that was also a way to intervene in the early days and motivate men to change and to be involved in this change. So you can check all these dissemination outputs and activities also in our website. We have all the resources there. We also did replication events. So we did also local events to motivate. So for the institution, we did the roundtables. That was really, really efficient and it worked really well. It's something that we will for sure repeat in other projects because this is a rather small event with some institutions and then specific professionals. In this case, at the beginning, we involved perinatal and early childhood professionals that were interested in the project, and they came to the different roundtables that we did throughout the project. So they could explain also their experience, challenges faced, and what would they ask to institutions to kind of easy their task when involving men also. So it was really nice because we had professionals, institutions, and us discussing together on how to improve the outputs of the project and at the end how to make them sustainable also at the local level. So we had more or less 12 participants in each of these roundtables, so it was rather small but really efficient. So that worked really well with the institutions, definitely. And then we did all the online, dissemination for the so-called general public, which at the end it's professionals, fathers, and and all these targets that we've mentioned. So we did also all these online communications that had a rather high impact also, because I think that the topic is really engaging.
That is wonderful to also learn about your participatory approach, right? That you are working with those institutions, and this is not like a top-down strategy to feed them information. There is a couple questions now related to this. You are mentioning you have a website and you are disseminating these tools, and we have a specific questions. What kind of work, what kind of tools are you disseminating? Is there anything people today can take away for their own work? And where can they find it?
Elena, if you want to take this over, or I can.
You can go.
So yes, I mean, it's good to have this question, and I'm sure it will be mentioned also throughout the event. So yeah, the link to our website has already been shared just now in our chat. Thank you to the team. And we have all the manuals that we have developed. They are obviously open access and available for all professionals and possible replicators. So we have developed a manual for training perinatal professionals and early childhood professionals on engaging fathers and preventing domestic violence. So this manual is available for professionals like us that would like to train these other professionals. And then we also developed the Fathers Group Manual for basically for the perinatal professionals and the early childhood education professionals to know how to develop these fathers groups. So these are very practical manuals and guides. And for the multi-agency model, which connects professionals, replicators like us, and institutions, it will be available online very soon. We are just finalizing the editing of the document.
Fantastic. And I can be sure that the background team will be dropping the website address here throughout the day, probably dozens of times. And so these tools that you develop, they are basically, this is a question, they are evidence-based, right? You shared, you evaluated them. We already know that they are working based on the research you are doing. I have a methods question for you now. How did you identify or select which outcomes to measure? And can you talk a little bit more about the methods for the geeks and researchers among us? How did you measure?
Yes, so we did this pre-pause evaluation and we were targeting 3 different levels of changes. We wanted to see the attitudes, especially in the professionals, but also in the fathers that would be part of the groups. If the attitudes towards gender-based violence and towards the implication of fathers in the nurturing and caring role was changing, so that was we know that attitudes. So we based our dimensions of analysis with the previous research, and we know that attitudes are really important in order to obtain then a behavior change. So that's the first thing we mentioned. We measured. Sorry. Then we measured also the feelings of readiness. That was also very important. So how ready, how prepared do they feel? And that was very useful at the very beginning to also have an idea of the level of preparedness of the professionals, but also when we measured the end to see if this changed, and so to see if our training had an impact also on the level of feeling ready. And then we also assess behavior change. So if indeed something changed, so if attitudes change, the level of readiness change, that doesn't imply that behavior change like straightforward, because as we said, sometimes there are institutional challenges that do not allow services to make huge changes. So we also measure the behavior change in terms of being able to identify more signs of domestic violence, if you have referred men to specialized services, if you have been able to do the group, so this behavior aspect. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this answers the question, but more or less these are the 3 dimensions that we were more interested in, and we built from previous tools. So we used some of the tools that were used in a project, European funded project that finished just before we started the Fathers ROC project, which is the parent project and the engage project. So we use the tools also from both projects, and we integrated them to also make this research sustainable and grounded in previous research.
I see a couple specific questions on involvement now. Just one question came into the chat. Did you involve frühe Hilfen? In Germany and Austria, there is early services. Maybe you are not the right people to answer that since you are in Spain.
Yes, but does the question ask if in Austria they involved early childhood education professionals? Okay, I think this is something that the Austrian partner can answer, but I just want to mention that for us it was really important also to include early childhood education. Sometimes we focus on the health, and perinatal services, but we know that early childhood is also very important target of professionals. So yeah.
Great. We put a pin in it. Maybe we come back later. Getting into sticky territory because we are brave, right? And as in your manuals, you also, which I love, you are promoting the brave space where we can talk about sticky issues, where we can be having controversial issues. I know that several partners, for example, Alice Camber has done work on men's groups and fathers' rights groups. Have you included specific father organization, or maybe did you run into any issues with fathers' rights organizations that are typically more gender conservative?
This is a question for us, right? Yes. If we faced problems with the father rights activists, not really. We had some issues with anti-gender, let's say, or anti-feminist movements in some of the events that we did. So I think this is quite common for many of the professionals that are working in this sector. But yes, so the question is if we face these challenges or.
Yes. So the question is, I think I put together two questions. The question was, have you included fathers organization, men's or fathers organization? But I brought my own bias into this because if I hear fathers organizations, I'm immediately the work pops into my head that Alice Camper did a couple of years ago on fathers' rights organizations and the problems with it. There is probably a lot of fathers' organizations that are progressive and working with you, or not. Are you working with progressive fathers' organizations?
I would say, and again, I'm focusing more in Spain now because I have the whole overview of our implementing country. We involve the parents association, so which includes fathers and mothers. So we mainly focus on these parents associations that would include both, and then we call to action to fathers, but we use them, let's say, the dissemination channels of parent associations, which includes both. Yeah.
Yes, great. I see Ellie has a hand up. We have not planned for this, but I would love for Ellie to react since I called her already.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do you hear me? Yeah, okay. Yeah, you called me, so I just wanted to mention, because you're talking about fathers' rights organization and progressive fathers organization, just a very brief definition. We, in our work, focus on the Messner triangle in differentiating progressive fathers' work and anti-feminist work. So Michael Messner provided a triangle and said if an organization like a fathers work organization is able to reflect on costs of traditional masculinity, reflect on male privileges in society and on the diversity of masculinity, then they have a progressive approach. I just want to mention this because you're talking about progressive and anti-feminist groups, and in order to differentiate it from anti-feminist groups, Messner said, they usually refer to the costs and see privileges on the women's side. I just can say for the Austrian case in the Fathers Work project, we were not confronted with anti-feminist groups in this project, and also not in the former parent project when we did the Fathers Laboratories, Vaterwerkstätten. Thank you.
Beautiful. Perfect. This concludes the Q&A. We are right on time. Thank you very much. Audience, you see many things are possible. You can drop questions anytime. If we didn't get to questions, we are putting a pin in it and hopefully get to them later. They are collected, just so you know, nothing is left. As the next speaker, I am welcoming Oriol Chines Canales. He is the president of Connexus, which is an association for psychosocial care training and research, implementing and improving interventions on issues related to equality, gender violence, and gender violence prevention and detection care for women, boys, and girls and men. Oriol Canales has worked with perpetrators. He has also worked with women and children who are victims of violence and has promoted caring masculinities with his work. He's also a trainer for colleagues in the field, and he has also published research on topics of violence prevention, on substance abuse. And Oriol will tell us about identifying and addressing domestic violence among perinatal services, going in depth about capacity building of frontline professionals.
Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for this space, and I try to do my best with my English language. Sorry, especially for English speakers, if I destroy your language sometimes, but I try to do my best and explain what is the focus of the capacity building that we were making in that project in Father Rock, and I explain only just a few brushstrokes about the training program, the capacity building program, and I try to share my presentation. One moment. You see, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then, as I said before, this capacity building and the project are based on previous project, parent and engage project, and we were trying to put all these knowledge and these experiences with professionals in a like a curriculum that could be the best for them, for these professionals to address men and fathers, and at the same time, this is the difficult of the project, prevent, detect, and prevent and address the gender-based violence. And I try to explain in my presentation what is the basis of this capacity building. We were focused on the first part of the capacity building in counteract stereotypes, what the stereotypes of professionals that now I explain you some of these ideas about men, fathers, and all about this, and how this difficult or is necessary to work with fathers, with men, because this is the first question for them. This is the problem. We have a problem with addressing men or not, and always explain in the perspective, gender perspective, and how this gender perspective can apply to men and to fathers in the service, you know, because sometimes, as my colleagues could explain after, we have a lot of diversity of professionals and services. There are a lot of difference of knowledge and experiences, and a lot of them have a good knowledge about gender perspective and this applying this in support women, but or children, but they have no experience in how to apply this gender perspective to men, and how to have a masculinities perspective. For us is very important in the program, and the role of frontline professionals in detect and need to know about the Istanbul Convention and other things that could be the basis of how to address gender-based violence in the services. A lot of them are not specialized in violence, are frontline professionals in child education, or in parent education, or in health, or other social services, and how to deal with gender-based violence. What are we talking about when we talk about gender-based violence? And uh, the last, the most important of the project, and very difficult for them, is how to detect and referral men, how to address and begin to talk with men about these things. And this is the different models and issues that we were uh, training the professionals. Um, some of the professionals are working with fathers, others not. Some of them are working with men, others not. They have no experiences, or few experiences with working with men or to address men, because they are more focused on women, or as a mother, or as a woman and children services. And we need then to talk about these stereotypes, or ideas about fathers and men, and how to understand gender and men. How gender is not about woman only; it's about men, and how men are gendered persons, and how these relations, gender relations, and why must we change to engage? This is the very question that we need to do changes in the services, in our approaches, in our knowledges to address men, and this is sometimes difficult because resources, because time, because other things, no legal situation that is difficult for them. We try to motivate and to understand that it's very important engaging fathers during prenatal and postpartum and early childhood moments. Not we have a lot of literature and scientific evaluations that are talking about this kind of impact, reducing risk and in the pregnancy. Can men support women in this process, and after, when the children grow up, and the relationship with them, psychological level, cognitive, emotional, and social adaptation, and other things that we know that, because this is the meaning of do this project, and to spread this knowledge with professionals, because this is very important, and especially preventing, reducing risk of domestic violence and other kinds of negligence, or other things that could affect a mother or child. And we try. This is only some ideas that I show you about the capacity building. We based on this Connell's hegemonic masculinity theory, and how to understand the diversity of men, and how to address these topics with men, and understand the position of men in our society, and why we address men is difficult sometimes, or why men are not in our services, are not coming, or not asking for help, no? Because this is very important. to understand from this perspective, not for essential perspective of masculinity or men are like this and we have nothing to do. And sometimes this is very difficult for professionals that are focused in a lot of time with women to change and have this perspective on men from this gender perspective. And this is very important for us. And we are encouraging them to do that and to understand that we need to work with women for the empowerment, but we need an engine necessary to change these things and to have this perspective, gender perspective, feminist perspective, because one of the questions that they are always on the table is what explanation do we give to the absence or the low participation of men in the pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum, and early childhood? Why men are not here? Where are men? No, men are always working, and the difficult for the services in general to access to men, to access to fathers, to men in general. They are not focused on men and how to address that and how to change these ideas, no, about why men are not here, are not giving help, why, how to involve men in the services, because this is the first step. If we have no men involved in our services, it's very difficult to offer spaces and to have this conversation with them about violence in some time, and we need them inside the system before. And we were only show you some ideas that we were working with professionals, and we are reflecting with them about how to explain this more beyond this kind of the idea of they are not interested or they don't want to be participating, they can do that, no? And sometimes they are waiting. Where are men? We are waiting. We are proposing things for all the people, but always women come to our services, but never men. That's implies expecting a magic change, because we have to understand from a gender perspective. This is what happened when you expect that men are asking for help. This is very difficult. And ideas about the nature of woman as a caregiver and the nature of men as not a caregiver, and how fathers are expected to be only to help women, to help mothers to care children, and how we understand um, these stereotypes about men are not prepared and not interested, and this difficult for professionals with these ideas that we could do more than men as a helper and can be a father. And in that case, when mother are not doing everything, is like bad mothers. Only these ideas about why is men doing these things that are for mothers or for women, and we try to understand about how um, change this idea about this is how to um, how to address and questioning and this kind of prioritized work and other activities for men, how to address this and put in question why it's like this and what we could do to improve this and to involve men in care, and how to sometimes that's some literature about these services sometimes have and professionals have some they are so afraid to have men in the services, how to deal with the men and how to do with men. And this is a problem for us. If men can come to our services, we have to change some in our services and in our practices. And this is very, very difficult for us. And then could be a problem for us if men come to our services. No? And this is the idea of the project, that we must intervene with fathers, and we try to uh, repeat the question: why not fathers? Why not fathers? What's the problem to have a father? Why they are not here? Why they are not asking? Why we are not offer something for fathers? No, and we try to train professionals about the needs and motivations, because the diversity of fathers, they are not in the same moment. There's a lot of other questions from an intersectionality perspective. There's a lot of types of paternity and fathers and different contexts for fathers, because we were working with different services more near to fathers with problems, with violence, in some perpetrators context, and some in a no specific violence context, that men are coming for improve their fatherhood, or are interested in something about to how to care better the children, and how to address them, and the position of the of fathers and men in this context are different, and we have to prepare professionals to deal with different positions of fatherhood, and one thing is to understand how these masculinity, hegemonic masculinity, are in contradiction with to be a good father. That is, as Berta said, very great motivation for father, for men to improve and to go to services, or open to do some changes. But we have to understand and how to make this with fathers, how to understand with fathers. These professionals could do this with fathers about these contradictions, and how to deal with them, and what really men want to be. They want to be a good father, and what do you have to observe this, no? If you think about one characteristic of good father, sometimes a lot of them are contradiction with this hegemonic masculinity and with these expectations to be a man. And we try to professionals to have the ability to detect this, and to address these things with fathers and the services. And in the second part of the capacity building, we were more focused on, okay, if we put all of these things on the table, and we see these contradictions, and we see the problems, we problematizing what is the problem with men when they are in their families, when they have children or not, but what happens with this hegemonic masculinity, and the links with violence. How to understand violence from a gender perspective, not from a psychopathology perspective, or criminal perspective, to see this from a gender perspective, from a gender perspective that include masculinities and the diversity of masculinities, and how to deal with this violence if we link with the socialization of men in inequality, and in a hegemonic masculinity. And what is violence? Some professionals know about this, but others not. There's a lot of difference in the countries. And about Istanbul Convention, we it's not about we talk about we need to do that. We must do that, because this is a legal context that we have in Europe to address violence, and this is a good opportunity with men as a fathers to do that with good practice and to understand perpetrators, to understand different stereotypes. Again, the stereotypes of professionals,
Oriol,
especially. Yes.
you are at time.
Okay.
Please find an end. Thank you.
If the fourth model of the capacity building is in define this domestic violence, ask his men about domestic violence, and motivating perpetrators to go to services that can address this violence. This is the whole thing that we do in the capacity building. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Oriol. Now I made you talk so fast. Well, the good news is we have way more time to spend with Oriol and other project partners. You can still drop your questions in the chat. We have one more short presentation coming up after a short bio break, and then we have a Q&A period again. So we will now take a 10-minute break. Get yourself a drink, get whatever you need to do, then another short presentation, then Q&A. But if you have questions for Oriol, and I apologize that I cut him off, but that's my role. I'll see you in 10 minutes, and we will chat with Oriol and Silvia Amazzoni, who is coming up after break a little later. Welcome back. We are coming back from our first break in the online event of Fathers Rock, raising engagement and accountability of men in their pathway for becoming caring fathers. Thank you for coming. We are proceeding with one short 20-minute input. We are staying in the topic of capacity building, but now with a view from Italy. After this input, we will have the opportunity to discuss your questions and get some answers. Thank you for your participation. We already have a couple questions, but let's hear first from Silvia Amazzoni. She talks about the implementation of the Fathers Rock capacity building with frontline professionals in Italy and reports challenges and findings for replication and follow-up, because the goal is really that we are spreading this knowledge throughout Europe and throughout the world, if possible. Silvia Mazzoni is a psychologist, psychotherapist, project coordinator and operator of CAM, CAM, stands for Centro di Ascolto Uomini Maltrattanti on Luz. CAM is an NGO, is a perpetrator program focusing on the intervention in violence against women and children by promoting work with men who act violently in emotional relationships. Located in Italy, Silvia herself has conducted male perpetrator groups, while now she is working within European projects as coordinator and also on a different level, developing awareness and activities on a community level. Please, Silvia, tell us how you implemented Fathers Rock in Italy.
Thank you, Daniela. So, hello, everyone.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so yes, I'm gonna explain and give you an overview about the implementation of Father Rock capacity building programs with frontline professionals, and also give some explain some challenges that we found during the implementation, and also some findings for future replication of the capacity building programs. Just a brief resume that the terms that we're gonna show you. So what has been done, then we're gonna talk about the results, so give you some numbers, the challenges encountered, and also a brief explanation about results that we found both from health professionals capacity building programs and early childhood perinatal early childhood professionals, and also finding for application and the follow-up that we done. So, what has been done? As my colleagues mentioned already, so we implement the programs targeting to perinatal professionals and early childhood professionals that were the main category of professionals that we work with. The programs run from May to November in Italy, Austria, and Spain. So the three countries implementers of the programs. And what we done, so each country took the training from the main module that Oriol already explained, and gave some adaptation basis to needs of professionals of the country and also the category. As Oriol explained again, so each training consists of two parts. One oriented more on the importance of involving fathers during the pregnancy period and the puerperium by professionals. Um, and a second part more related to detect domestic violence and how to make a referral to the center that deals with abusive men. And this part, it was based on a previous model, engaged model. It was created in a previous European project, and it was consistent in a clear 4 steps that professionals can use in order to detect factors of violence in male, talking about violence with men, motivate and make a referral to the center specialized of domestic violence through the work with men. What results we achieved? 13 capacity building programs run in the countries. So in total, yeah, we did 13 capacity building programs, and we reached 2,031 professionals figures reached, including psychologists, nurses, midwives, pediatricians, social workers, kindergarten teachers, and etc. We reached actually many different kind of professionals, and that means that there is a need from professionals learn more about the both topics that we train on. So what were the challenges that we encountered? Of course, from the proposal, the project proposal at the beginning, we promised to reach a high number, because we promised to reach 135 to 180 professionals, but at the end, so we reach more professionals than what we have promised. So we obtain actually a great result. Other challenge related was other challenge was related to the type of professionals, because we worked with public professionals from public institutions like health or education services. And that means that sometimes it was quite difficult to find suitable schedules for training, but of course we found it actually. Other challenge that we encountered, it was a lack of awareness of stereotypes among professionals and some resistance from them. So, because the themes that we deal, it was regarding fatherhood, masculinity, and violence. Those themes are complex and in some respects could arouse fears, prejudice, and resistance. In particular, when we talk about paternity, for example, we all have or have had a father, and in general, it has always been in this kind of traditional family with a traditional masculinity model. It is a mother who takes care of children. So it is possible that some professionals, in this case, who have had a certain education, when we talk about of pregnancy and puerperium, can reactive this kind of experiences and therefore not consider the figure of the father as caregiver. So therefore, the challenge was to overcome stereotypes and internalized experience, reflect on this, and be able to cross them to meet new methods of care masculinity. Also, when we talk about pregnancy, is a tradition, so is a theme of. So we are talking about women when we talk about pregnancy. So it might be quite difficult sometimes. I will say to remember father because everything is related to women, and is a strong yes argument related to feminine traits. So how can we involve father without eliminating women's empowerment? So the challenge could be to involve both partners in finding ways to support each other and help them experience the changes in a proactive way. Of course, fathers are necessary during the pregnancy period, and there is a need for an active effort that professionals themselves must make in involving them. Naming them when they are so naming the fathers when they are not present and request the presence of them to women, for example, and also need to teach fathers how can stay close the women, how to help her, inform them about childbirth and possible psychopathologies such as maternal and paternal postpartum depression or baby blues. Other challenge we found related to system aspects because we worked with private and public system. So sometimes it's when we work with institutions needs it's necessary to plan well advanced activities. And also we adapted materials for two kinds of professionals who were trained and we tried also to give examples, concrete examples, and work those kind of themes, fatherhood, masculinity, gender violence, placed in the context of professionals working. So some results that we found, it was the perception of professionals on the difficulty of involving fathers in activities in terms of commitments or frequency. But in reality, what we found when we worked in the fathers groups, we detect interest and consistency in attendance. So it's just a wrong perception, I would say, of professional, because fathers want to have groups, want to participate of some kind of groups. Um, Okay, and also we found, yes, difficult times and spaces suitable for fathers from institutional, I would say, because maybe if you do groups with fathers, so you should do in the evening, for example, and maybe institution is closed. So to find a good way to encounter the needs of both categories. Fathers are more involved during the pregnancy than the past, but what professionals said was that they found a dropout in the postpartum courses or meetings of fathers. We increased knowledge of detecting violence and a rise awareness of professionals in their stereotypes regarding the label perpetrator men and on their fears to work with them. And some results from early childhood professional capacity building programs. So we found a high number of professionals that was interested and attend to the training. Low knowledge about gender-based violence and how to detect it. So it's a group that needs to be trained in this theme. And also we found desire and interest on the part of professionals to involve fathers in more activities promoted by nurseries in meetings with parents or even in groups such as WhatsApp, for example, that fathers sometimes they are not present or not participate to the conversation. Um, some findings for replication of this kind of programs. Of course, increase engagement of public institutions so that fathers group can be included on the regular basis. Involve male professionals to carry out father groups. It's good option. Create continuous groups for helping fathers about fathering issues in postpartum period, which fathers can talk about their fears, worries, feelings, etc. Continues to train professionals in the use of gender-sensitive way and the caring masculinity approach, building with the institution a comprehensive model of work, and continues to train professional, yes, to identify, address domestic violence within the health, nursery education, and other key services in order to increase the safety of mother and their children. And just after the trainings, we did the follow-up after 2 months. So we asked to the professionals if changed something in the way that they worked with fathers, with women after the trainings. And what we found, it was some actually positive results, because they say that they are now more aware of certain situations, having more keys to reading context. They also appreciate the need of more involvement of the abuser and realize how important it is to work on violence already at an early age. And also the training helped some of them to deepen the aspects already learned in previous courses, and professionals increased the numbers of other who perpetrators of violence referral to the specialized services. Uh, some codes that I report here, it is clarity and greater awareness and how to refer and recognize early signs of violence. And the other quote was, gained more confidence in my ability to detect abusive fathers, realizing that occasionally their perception of things may have been too tolerant. And this is all. And so, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Silvia Amazzoni. We are bringing on Oriol onto the screen. as well for our Q&A session. We have a little bit more than 10 minutes to play. So, Oriel, I think you're getting more time now. And we do have interesting questions from the chat. Um, the first one is already for Oriol, but Sylvia, of course, feel free to chime in. Have there been any men as lecturers and trainers in pregnancy preparation courses at all in one of the countries?
I understand in the father groups that we do in the project. I understand this.
Yeah, I understand it. Maybe talk about the father groups and we can follow up in the chat. I understand in actual perinatal prep courses, but please talk a bit about the demographics of the trainers in your father classes.
Yes, there's some difference because here in Barcelona we have uh, 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 how to say, this is a program for health uh, for this is established that there are some psychologists that are doing this with nurses, and a lot of them are men doing these groups in Barcelona in general. And in our father groups, there were some men and some women groups of fathers that were run by one man and two women that after could express their feelings about this. And but in general, we have this in Barcelona, only in Barcelona. In other countries, there are some men with women doing the father groups too, and in child education and other in another spaces. I don't know if this is the question.
Great. There was also an earlier question on trainers in these spaces. Are there peer trainers? Are you working with peer facilitation at all?
And no, because the project is we're focused on to prepare and to engage professional services, or as they have to be prepared to do this with men, with fathers involving and detect, and we are not focused on as we said before, we were not focused on other organizations like men's of other organizations, or other things of organization. We were more to professional settings because this is the focus of the project. And then we have not these figures now in the project, but it could be a good idea for the future from the father groups that we were doing at this time.
Yes, that makes so much sense. Sylvia, you are welcome to also share a little bit about the demographics of trainers and facilitators in Italy, but also more specifically, Sylvia, could you share a bit about supporting services in identifying and responding to intimate partner violence? What were the reactions of service providers? Was there anything that surprised you on the level of service providers?
Okay. So when we work in support services in detect domestic violence sector, what we found normally is like a general knowledge about domestic violence, actually. Sometimes good knowledge in general, but of course we found often some worries about professionals to detect domestic violence, and especially work with men to to name violence, for example, with men, is something that push behind professionals. And so we need to support on to work on stereotypes, because sometimes when we talk about the perpetrator men, we think about their master, and so people push behind, and that don't want to work with them, or don't know nothing about violence. So we need to support it in this way, people that perpetrator man is not a master, it's a common person, and the men want to stop use violence. So it's not so they can help them to stop violence, and there isn't a dangerous. Okay, I don't know if I explained with myself.
Yes, that's great. And we go even more into the weeds with the next question. There is a question in the chat, and I quote from the chat now, and maybe we can unpack this a little bit. The question is, is there a differentiation between quote unquote abusive men and fathers who have been violent before the pregnancy, and quote unquote overstrained men and fathers? That implies they are stressed out by the pregnancy and they react with violent behaviors. How can we even talk about this difference without, making this black and white picture? How can we talk about these complex behaviors? And do you see a difference? Is this even a topic? And I would invite both of you to react because we have the time. And I start with Oriol.
Sorry, but I don't understand the question. I don't know about this research about that, but I don't understand what is. We know that a lot of relations about violence and perinatal situations, and it's because we have this project and other projects, but the roots to violence, there are a lot. Sometimes before, sometimes with this situations, stress situations after the 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 birth, and a lot of different kinds of situations that are overwhelming this previous violent relation, that it could be hidden before, and is the pregnancy and the birth could emerge this more situation of violence. But I don't know if there's a research in this these two ways and these two situations of fathers.
No, I don't have actually. I'm sorry, I have my daughter here. I am in them. She's really
No,
small.
sorry.
Sorry. And no, I don't have actually any to add. Just yes, during the maternity period and pregnancy, if violence happen, but yes, I don't have more research. That's a real say about that. Sorry.
Thank you. I so love to see your daughter. Thank you for bringing her and making this a really multi-generational space, which is so important and so lacking in Western societies very often. So that's an interesting thing to put a pin in it for future projects. There might be a research need to see if the perinatal phase, and Alessandra had some numbers, right, about violence in perinatal periods, and to do more comparative and cross-country comparisons, how that, if it would make sense to actually look at it with research as an explicit stressor. There is a question that is a little bit complex, and I may have to bring it up a little bit later too, but we have a couple minutes. So if you have a spontaneous reaction to this, please share, but I don't put you on the spot. Is there a difference? Can you see a difference between fathers in countries where we have full paid paternal leave options for fathers and in countries where we do not have paternal leave? Did you see in your project see any difference? Do these paternal leave, parental leave options matter for participation and caring masculinity?
But I think that there were a lot of difference because of the legal context. We know about in Spain we have now 16 weeks for mother and father, and in Italy I don't
10
know
days.
Silvia, but it's
10
2
days.
weeks, 10 days,
10
sorry,
days.
10
10 days
days,
we get. And
and
change it
that's
as
that's a big difference from the beginning. And in terms that Michael are asking, I understand that yes, if I don't know because I was not in Italy groups, but in Spain you see my father's position is to change, to understand how to care and to be caring. We need more than they say, but this is the they see like a duty now because it's like a duty for them because they have this 16 weeks. They have a lot of opportunities, and this is a kind of challenge for them because they have this opportunity, and this is 10% paid, and okay, you have to do something because now you have this opportunity in equally with a mother. And yes, you I think we can see in Spain more action to about self-image sometimes because we need to say something to do something, and we have to do better, improve my care abilities and of this. But we have no this comparison. I think after the father groups, we were not uh, putting these observations. I don't know, Sylvia could say something in Italy.
No, in Italy, just yesterday, saw an article about um, how much men take the paternity leave. So I saw the change from the past to this year. That's now fathers take more the paternity leave. So in the past we got 3 days, and now we got 10 days. But I know about some fathers that even not take the 10 days because the pregnancy, not the pregnancy, sorry, the puerperium, the postpartum is the topic that remain of mothers. But even if the situation, so it changed quite a bit. And when we did the fathers group, we found fathers very involved in the education and also in the care of children. Uh, mm, from the beginning, so from the birth of them. So that means that fathers want to take care of them, and but of course it needs a legal change because 10 days is really, really nothing actually.
But I think Michael asking us if there was a difference because in Italy there are no a lot of fathers because they have no this full paid, and in Spain there are a lot of fathers knocking on the door. But I think there's no difference there are a lot of fathers in Italy going to the fathers groups, no? I understand,
Yes.
and the same in Spain. Probably in scaling these groups and putting them in a lot of territories. I could see we could see that in Spain could be easily for fathers to go to these fathers groups and are more supported by this food bite paternal leave. But with this
Okay.
pilot father groups and in the project, we can see a lot of difference more than in questions of attitudes, but sometimes.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Oriol and Sylvia, for this very interesting conversation. Thank you for answering the questions. We are sticking with what motivates fathers to get engaged, to stay engaged. And I give the word. So, a little bit of a format change. We have our first panel. I am able to give the word to Andrea Santoro, who will be introducing his panelists Marco Chacoya, Wolfgang Obendrauf, and Margarita Fidel Luciana Rodriguez himself. They will be talking about what motivates men to engage in the countries of Austria, Italy, and Spain. Andrea Santoro is chair of the Association Cerchio degli Uomini in Turin, Italy. He's a facilitator, writer, and researcher in gender studies, an expert in gender-based violence prevention and engaged fatherhood promotion. He's also a trainer in the EU Parent Project and in other projects and part of the Fathers Rock Advisory Board. You will meet another advisory board member later, Marianne Hestas. She has already interacted in the chat, but right now I give the word to Andrea Santoro. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dani, and good morning, everyone. It is really a pleasure being here with you and yeah, knowing and listening to all these experiences, these efforts, and these products from this amazing project. Here I have the honor to moderate this panel with key professionals from Italy, Austria, and Spain. And we will discuss motivators in the engagement of men. And this is interesting because often the words, the thoughts that we share with men can sometimes really make the difference in our effort of promoting engaged and respectful fatherhood. So I would like to introduce the members of this panel, and I don't know if I am supposed to see them on screen, like highlight. Okay, I see appearing. Them appearing on screen. Okay, perfect. So I will now introduce the panelists, and then I will ask each of them two questions, the first and the second. And we can agree on having, let's say, 2-3 minutes for each answer, so that we can have the right time and the right space for everyone, and maybe hopefully have some little space at the end if something interesting comes up and we want to delve deep in this field. So I would like to welcome and introduce Marco Giacoia, who is a psychologist and CIM operator. He works with male offenders in the area of Florence and Pistoia and within the prisons of Florence and of Prato. He also deals with interviews with female offenders. In the Fathers Rock project, he was mainly involved in leading the groups with the fathers. So thank you, Marco, for being here today. Then I would like to welcome Margarita Fité. She is from Connexus. She is a pedagogist and responsible of prevention projects in Dones and Empenta NGO. Excuse me my pronunciation, that were ruling the Fathers Rock Group. And welcome also to Luciana Rodriguez. She also is from Connexus, and she is a psychologist and is ruling the Service for Orientation and Attention for Families in Dones and Empenta NGO. And then last but not least, please welcome Wolfgang Obendrauf. He is a certified systemic life and social counselor, marriage and family counselor, certified sexual counselor, Austrian Society for Sexual Research. His fields of work involves men's coffee, men's counseling, initial and telephone counseling, Boys Day, area management coordination, press relations and media contacts, Mini, Med, ambassador, men's health, Gemma Geminshem, pardon, sorry for my pronunciation again, trainer in the parent project, Father Workshop. And he is also involved in press work for psychosocial institution, IKEMBA, and counseling at the Family and Sexual Counseling Center, Courage and Graz. So thank you everyone for being here. We saw that from your presentation that you have all the experience and knowledge to know this field of engaging men to promote fatherhood and prevent gender-based violence, I would add. So for the first question is, how can healthcare and early child education and care professionals foster men evolution towards gender equality and non-violence through fatherhood promotion? Because as Alexandra Pounds reminded us at the start of this conference, times are changing, as Bob Dylan would sing. We are very happy that men are slowly, someone could argue, evolving in the role of caregiver, but we would like to achieve more. We would like that fatherhood promotion to be a sort of pathway towards gender equality and non-violence. So how can, in your opinion, healthcare and early child education and care professional can do this connection, foster in men this evolution? And I would ask to Marco if he wants to start.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. The answer to this question also arises from the needs expressed by men. I think professionals could increase the active involvement of the father figure, starting, for example, by organizing sharing spaces with their partner and spaces between fathers or future fathers. In some situation, there was a lack of recognition towards this figure, even if when they were involved, they responded positively. Talking about father and not simply companion or husband or so on can help to include the father figure more. A poster or word of mouth is enough to involve them in groups where they could discuss their fears when they are afraid and concerns with professionals and other men and learn to manage certain situations thanks to the acquisition of new information. Sometimes it seems sufficient to put 2 chairs instead of 1 in the room. Ask the father if there are any questions when a professional speaks, or request the father's presence at the appointments and inform him of the proposed activities. Involve him starting even just from WhatsApp groups, or when usually only mother are inside these groups. In Tuscany, an application for mother is born to accompany women during pregnancy. The application provides information on consultancy, hospital services, and so on. Maybe one day it will also be created for fathers. This could be lighten the burden on their parents, on their partners, and make fathers feel involved.
Thank you very much, Marco. Very interesting insights about these questions. Maybe Margherita Fite would like to share some thoughts now. Thank you.
Hello, I'm going to speak. I am Luciana, and yes, we think that first of all, one thing we can do and very important is incorporating the gender perspective into our own professional approach, and by reviewing and identifying our prejudices and stereotypes through which we often read the families that consult us. This for us is very, very important. And after this, creating meeting points for fathers or future fathers where they can share their concerns, insecurities, and desires, and where to share with others from this tenderness and fragility that often characterizes this first stage of parenting, and in which surely there are not many male references or reference. We also want to speak from our experience as in an organization that is called Donas Amampenta, that means empowerment women, no? That has been working for more than 25 years with women in all stages of the life cycle to detect, address, and prevent gender-based violence. We see it's essential in this current context to work with fathers, to reflect and especially to listen to their experiences and difficulties, and these new models of family and fatherhood. And also, as Father Rock proposes, this is a good tool for prevention and detection of violence. And it's a tool that we consider essential and that we have probably started too late, no? That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If I got it right, you shared your thoughts and the thoughts of your colleague. If I get it right, okay. So now, please, Wolfgang, share with us your thoughts about the first questions. Thank you very much. And hopefully turn on your mic.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wolfgang Womdrauf. I would tell you about my experience as a Father Rocks trainer and explore the questions of how we can reach fathers. So in Austria, it's difficult to reach people when there is talk of violence or violence prevention. Many men are worried about coming out as perpetrators. Others react with defensiveness or justify themselves. That's why we avoided the word violence prevention in the workshop title, so as not to scare off fathers or to insinuate that they are potentially prone to violence. That's why we choose the title Active Fatherhood from the beginning on, but safely. In the workshop, we deal with how to deal with anger, stress, and excessive demands. We talk about how men can make an important contribution so that everyone in the family can feel safe and secure, including the men themselves. We were able to hold 33 Fathers Rock workshops in Austria. 120 men participated. The majority of the workshops took place online, only a few in person. We were able to reach significantly more participants online. Some online participants have just been to far-flung places, especially, for instance, Sweden, for work or training. Others were taking care of their children at home or working from home. All my seminars took place in small groups from 10 to 9 participants, always in the evening for one and a half to 2 hours. Okay, and let's show how can we reach out to fathers. It's difficult to reach fathers in Austria despite intensive application. To do this, we need staying power and good contacts with parent-child centers. To do this, we need to go to places where fathers are already present, for instance, antenatal course, father-child breakfast, and other events. We need to use language that doesn't unsettle or scare fathers away when it comes to violence. It's most successful if our offer is integrated as part in the birth preparation measures, and we are given the opportunity to invite the fathers through the mothers. Our reality is working with small groups. Working through a clearly structured workshop according to a plan is then not the method of choice. More promising is the roll-up of our content due to the topics and questions that the men bring with them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Wolfgang. We saw some interesting thoughts, like in strategies to include, to welcome fathers in within a context where historically they were not included, and for reasons I would add. And also like flexibility tools like online, the possibility to have online groups, etc., etc. But as we can see, we have also to be aware that including men do not mean including all men or including every behavior of men. So the second question I would like to propose you is, what critical points do healthcare and early child education and care professionals face through this process, and how, in your opinion, is it possible to tackle these critical points? Thank you very much. So maybe if you want, if we like to have the same round of speech, if you like, I give the word to Marco. Thank you very much, Marco.
Okay. Regarding this question, I believe there are two levels. The first is a stereotype that we have, which is linked to motherhood as a uniquely female issue. She is the main subject, the father is considered a companion, and that's it. The role of the father is hardly considered a central figure. Instead, it's essential to provide shared information on motherhood and what it entails, what the changes are at an individual and couple level, to open a space for fathers to be able to discuss themselves and to break down the stereotype of male fragility, who is not used to discussing things with friends and colleagues about their emotion. Another point that we must consider is that despite the sensitivity of some operators and the work they already do to involve the father figure, there is an organization of the institutions that does not favor this. Despite the awareness of the operators and the goodwill shown in the project too, it is sometimes difficult to proceed with the promotion, even just by putting a poster in a visible public space. It is obvious that when the operator also tries to involve the father, the effectiveness increases greatly. Very often, the number of professionals is small compared to the needs, and therefore a conflict is created even with the possibility of involving them. Not so much due to disinterest, but to the multiple tasks they have to cover. All this without also considering the need for economic resources. That's another problem. It was also noted that the men work late, therefore compatible with these services, it would be advisable to organize meetings in the evening or late afternoon. Initially, it might be also useful to use the online mode so as to be able to involve more people until an adequate number is reached for in-person groups. Maybe a further implementation of this project would certainly be interesting.
Thank you very much, Marco. Luciana, if you wanted to add something to this, thank you.
Yes. Well, this question we answered it from our own experience. So I hope also well. I hope it's okay. We found one of the biggest challenges in our case proposing an activity aimed exclusively at men, something we have never done before in our organization. Another challenge, but it's very, very well, it's in the same line we faced was the fact that despite being professionals specialized in tackling gender-based violence, in gender perspective, and all the background we have in intervention in different areas and groups, in spite of having done this specific training with our friends of Connexus, we are women. We are women. We were socialized as women, and we read ourselves as women. And this made us wonder if we would be able to generate this place of self-confidence in a non-mixed group of men, so that they could open up and share their concerns. For us, this was one of the biggest challenges. Bueno, perhaps the biggest it's all in the same line. Is this quote unquote insecurity of opening this group for men and only with men? Will anyone come? And once they signed up and came for the first session, will they come back? No, it was important for us to continuously evaluate each session and to put into words how we had felt and the possible gender gaps we detected, how some of the answers or comments had impacted or resonated on us. And above all, we try not to step out of our role of as facilitators, supporting this process of a group that is finding its own contradictions from the way they have been socialized as men and their own masculinities. A challenge that for sure we share with many other organizations and professionals. But once we have done it, we realized that yes, it is possible, that it works, that the men are committed to the task and that there is an interest and a concern in questioning certain issues. And all the participants have anonymously evaluate the experience as positive. They have felt the group as a confidence place. They have been able to share with others. They have been able to weave networks and above all, they agree that they would recommend the group to their friends. So this is super. This is great for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing this experience. Without hesitation, I give the floor to Wolfgang, to add some thoughts, if you like, to this second question. Thank you.
Yes, there are different questions I would like to answer. First of all, we have only male trainers in the Father Rocks workshops. And how can we reach out to the fathers? We be able to use our network of NGOs in the field of parent education, which we were able to build up through the Parent Project, the EU Parent Project. Above all, the parent counseling centers and parent-child centers in Styria are important partners in order to reach expectant fathers. They offer training courses for mothers and fathers on a regular basis every year, of a period of 4 to 6 weeks. Registration is almost exclusively done by the mothers. A parent-child center in a small town in the countryside has integrated the fathers' workshops into the range of courses. The invitation to the fathers' workshop was sent by email to the mothers in order to reach the fathers. As a result, up to 65% of fathers have participated in our workshops. So this is how one workshops came about. Successive series of workshops with different thematical focal points were convened, which also took place sporadically. And if I ask fathers who participate to the workshop, what are the obstacles to active fatherhood? The answer is reconciliation, work and family. It's the most important answer. Yes, of course. So we made inputs on caring masculinity to the relationship orientation as a supplement to performance orientation. It's because men are used to get self-consciousness about work and income, but not in social work and relationship to other persons.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would like to really thank you all for for sharing your experience and your thoughts. And I would like now to give the floor back to Dani and to go on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for this fascinating panel. Really love how practical the project is and the event also is, so we can all leave and have actual tools in our hands. Welcome back. We are off to a slow start here. We have a 10-minute warm-up phase. Welcome back from your lunch break. I see we did not lose a lot of people at all, and this is very exciting. Promised you a magic trick, and I will deliver. Fading out Tash a little bit. So here's a magic trick I learned a few years ago, and I like to do in online meetings. It enhances your focus, and it is relaxing. And all you need, and you can leave your cameras off, so you don't have to be embarrassed at all, but all you need are your two hands and your ears. Who knew in your ear you have more than 200 acupressure spots that are also used for acupuncture? If you have ever been to acupuncture, the entire body can be treated through your ear. More than 200 spots, and you can stimulate them with just your finger. And I show you how to do that. For focus, it is recommended you massage on the outer edges of your ear. So between your thumb and your index finger, take the outer edge of the top of your ear and start massaging it. And start not to, so you can feel a comfortable pressure, yeah? And you can massage it all the way down. You massage all the way down the edge of your ear. At some point, you're going to have to switch the position of your hands. I have to massage along my earrings. Massage all the way down. If you're at your earlobes, you can pull a little bit. And let's massage all the way back up. This is really great in any situation, especially if you're working on the screen, because you don't have to move. And you can quickly turn off your camera if you need a little kick. And the acupressure massage specifically enhances your focus. If you want to add a little bit, oh, no sound. Nicholas has no sound. I hope other people have sound. Can you give me feedback if you hear me or if I just, okay,
yes,
great.
we can hear you.
Great. Or if I just make a fool out of myself, massaging my ears. So here's for more relaxation. You want to pull your ear. You pull your earlobes, or you can pull gently your entire ear. Interestingly, the space behind your ear, we never touch it. It's very tender. You can massage it for relaxation too. This all enhances your blood flow to your ear and contributes to overall wellness, to focus, but also enhances your immune system, which I probably should have embraced a little bit more. So welcome back to the afternoon program. I would like to share with you what we have going on. I have slides. Get slides prepared. Where are they now? I'm looking. Well, I just jumped into the agenda then. So in the afternoon, I will ask you for a little bit of an input here in a second. And we have another 20-minute input from our project partners in Austria, Alice Campbell and Oliver Bosch, and then another, a little bit longer panel that is facilitated by advisory board member Marianne Hester. We then have a Q&A session again, as you know it from the morning session. And after a short break, we will change to a Zoom room. Not a problem. We will guide you all the way through. And in Zoom breakout sessions, you will be able to interact with all the project partners and really apply what you have learned to yourself and break it down and leave with some practical next steps. And we will gather for takeaways and final remarks. And we will ask you on several occasions again to give us an evaluation. And we have talked about social change a lot. I would like to, and social change begins with change in individuals, right? And on an emotional level, we don't talk about emotions a lot in social science. I will invite you to share your emotion. One emotion word. How do you feel so far about this Father's Rock project and about this event? I've prepared a little Mentimeter slide, just a word cloud. It's completely anonymous. Drop us a word, one emotion word. How do you feel? What's going on inside you now about this event? And I will be able to share in real time what you are coming up with. If you just go to mentimeter.com, this is the code. I will also drop it on menti.com. You can give in a code or you just click the link and I will show you what is coming up in real time. Excited, interested, very good. Refreshing, fascinated is also great. And thank you for your participation. For an online event, this is a longer event. It has been designed so carefully and thoughtfully by the project team, and it's really very heartening to see that you are all with it and you are so interested and so engaged. And you have not, you are still here, you are still with us. Validated is, of course, also a wonderful response because this is not mainstream work, right? This is still such a cutting edge work, even though the project partners, your work has been around for so many decades. But still, this is something very special that needs to be mainstream. That's why it is important to have these 50, 60 people here in the audience who can carry the findings in their own context and communities. I love that almost all of these words are positive. One is angry, which I find amusing because anger has good uses. We know since Audre Lorde, right? Anger can be put to good use in work, into work, to confront gender stereotypes and get more people engaged into positive change. Thank you so much. 30 responses. You are so wonderful. I wish I would teach classes like this, but American college does not work that way. So let me return to be on time to our main program. We have two exciting speakers from the Austrian partner organization next, who will share about promoting well-being of family systems and family members, particularly from a multi-agency intervention view for fathers' engagement. They come from Verein für Männer- und Geschlechterthemen Steiermark, the Association for Men and Gender Issues in Styria, which is providing research and education on caring masculinities and violence prevention, gender-reflecting work with men and boys on violence prevention, masculinities, diversity, and intersectionality. More specifically, Oliver Bosch and Ellis Kambor, who we have with us, are the two leaders of the Institute for Masculinity Research and Gender Studies that is connected to the broader nonprofit of the Association for Men and Gender Issues. Oliver and Ellie have a lot in common. They both hold sociology degrees. They are both involved in various collaborations on various national and international projects and in research in the areas of caring masculinity, violence prevention, family and work sociology. Both are experienced with qualitative methods, quantitative methods, mixed methods, the whole deal. And they both also work as educators in the context of the Research Institute and also research projects. Ellie is actually the founder of this Research Institute for Masculinity Research and currently also leads it. She also teaches at Austrian University and supervises students and is active on various national boards involved with men's work and gender studies. Ellie has received the Distinguished Austrian State Prize for Women's Research, Gender Studies and Gender Equality in the Workplace, the Käthe Leichter Prize in 2016, and keeps initiating and coordinating a multitude of transdisciplinary national and international research projects. Oliver Bosch is currently training as a mediator at the University of Graz and is the deputy director of the Institute for Masculinities and Gender Research. Oliver has also received a prize for his work, the Dr. Karl Kummer Prize for Family Policy in 2022, together with Romana Zak for his work on the situation of caring men at universities. The floor is open for you, Oliver and Ellie.
Thank you very much. Dani, can you hear me? Okay, so we have an open mic. So I use this open mic to start the short introduction on the multi-agency model with saying thank you. Thank you for the great cooperation, sharing ideas in this Fördersrock project to all partners. I would like to say thank you also to this group of people, Dimitra, Anna, Duri, who organized this conference, and to the amazing Dani, who moderates us through the day. So thank you very much. And last but not least, I want to say thank you to my colleagues, Wolfgang, Oliver, and Thomas, for working together in this Fördersrock project in Austria. I will start, we will share the presentation on the multi-agency model. I will very briefly start with talking about what is the multi-agency model. We described the multi-agency model in a manual that can be shared after this conference because we are in the process of finalizing. In this manual, we divided actually two sections. One is that we talk about the definition of multi-agency, what does it mean, that we show examples, and we also will provide examples today. And the second part is more an empowerment of experts in parental education and other perinatal services to prevent gender-based violence. So we will actually give some insights into both aspects. I would like, Oli, that you share the presentation if possible. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next slide, please. So the multi-agency model is, as you described here in this quote, an interdisciplinary network of different organizations who join to achieve a common goal. In our case, in the Father's Rock project, the aim of this model is to protect women and children and individuals in general who suffer from violence in close relations and in intimate partner violence. So in order to proceed as effectively and coordinated as possible, so various services join forces. This is the definition of the, this is how we start the multi-agency model. So next slide, please. In the case of the Father's Rock project, these various organizations and services are on the one side part of what we call an inner circle. So these are organizations from parent education and other birth-related services. Here, as my organization, there are some relevant actors. So in the middle, you see that's me, and there is a supervisor, the head of the organization, and colleagues who are important in challenging situations. Then in the inner circle, we also differentiate the victim protection organizations on the one side and the organizations working with perpetrators. So this is the inner circle of the model, but then we also have an outer circle. In the outer circle, there are other organizations or relevant stakeholders that are important in order to achieve the goal. Then the goal again is the protection of victims of violence in close relations. So the outer circle of the multi-agency model can include different organizations, for example, a child and youth welfare service center, the family court, the police, and many other organizations that contribute to ensuring the protection of victims of violence in close relation and intimate partner violence. So,
thank you, Ellie. Now I go on explaining how does the multi-agency model work. We want to illustrate that with an example. In this example, a situation occurs where violence from a father against the mother is observed in a parent education organization during an event of them. Now the inner circle of the multi-agency model gets activated. The parent education organization contacts the victim protection agency and discusses with them the incident. In the next step, the victim protection organization exchanges information with colleagues from institution working with perpetrators. So, and after that, now the health chain of the outer circle gets involved. That means, as Ellie already mentioned, police, maybe family council, child and youth welfare, maybe probation services, all organizations of the multi-agency model with the common goal of ensuring the protection of the victim. Before I go on to the second part of our multi-agency model, I also want to mention that in our manual we will publish soon. There is also a chapter from our Italian partners about how to establish a multi-agency model, and from our partners from Blanquerna, they wrote a chapter about how to maintain the multi-agency model in a sustainable way. Please have a look in the manual about these chapters, because those are also very essential parts of the multi-agency model. But due to the time, we now want to show you the second part of the multi-agency model. We concentrated on the empowerment of experts from parental education and further perinatal services. In the second part of the manual, next to a chapter about violence and the chapter about the responsibilities of perinatal services when violence occurs among their clients, we wrote 2 guidelines on how to deal with first victims of violence, and another guide on how to deal with perpetrators. And as you can see in the slide, each guide was differentiated into 4 phases, always from the point of view of perinatal services. We have the preparation phase, then a phase we call violence phase, a contact phase, and last but not least, a post phase. Now let's have a closer look on the guide how to work with victims of violence. In the preparation phase, we recommend 4 steps. First, acquiring knowledge about violence, and Ellie wrote a great chapter about violence also for our manual. So then second, reflecting on your own experiences of violence. Third and fourth, that's what we were already talking at the first part. So third, research local victim support services. And fourth, establish and maintain contact with those services.
Okay, so the contact phase, I will briefly talk about the contact phase. By the contact phase, we mean this is the phase in which you, as a professional, seek direct contact with the victim or potential victim, inform them about offers of help, and try to mediate with them. So in response to the question of how to behave when contacting us, what to do and what to keep in mind, we provided some recommendations in this multi-agency manual. One is overcome your doubts. What does it mean? If we see violence or if we see hints on violence, we usually try to follow what we would call an inner voice that tells us, I don't want to accuse anyone wrongly and things like that. So we recommend to not listen to this excuse voice, because if you listen to the excuse voice, the inner excuse voice, violence will continue. So overcome this doubt. Second, find an entry point. So meaning create a situation where you are able to talk with a victim or potential victim. So create a one-to-one exercise exclusively for mothers or other entry points. Address your observations, so meaning describe what you have observed, describe facts that you have actually observed, avoid interpretations, stick to descriptive descriptions if possible. So, for example, you have bruises here, or I observed how your husband screamed at you very aggressively in the parking lot in front of our facility, for example. This would be something that you have observed and should address. So before I continue with the concrete situation, I would like to do a thought experiment with you. It's a very short thought experiment, but we don't always want to talk. You also want all the people to be involved. So we invite you to do this experiment in 2 or 3 minutes. So think about a secret you have. So take a few seconds now. I will stop talking and think about a secret you have in the next 10 to 15 seconds. So let me go further. The next step would be that now imagine that for some reason you have to disclose the secret in your social environment. I would like to say that there is no need to talk about this secret now in this setting. No need for that. Just think about that you have to disclose the secret in your social environment. Think about it, and also think about what kind of feelings you have when you think that you have to disclose it. What could happen to you? So take another 20 seconds and think about it. And if you come to the feelings, go into the chat and describe them, or describe a feeling, shame or whatever. Share it with us. Don't share the secret, but share the feeling. What happens if you have to disclose? terror, uncomfortable, insecure, uncomfortable, embarrassed, hesitation, exposed. Shame, fear, shame. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we have an impression of how it feels if you have to disclose something. Those could also be a feeling if you start talking to a person about things that you have observed, because usually when it comes to violence, it is hidden or people try to hide. So now the very last question, what could help? So what could make it easier for you to tell anyone? So how could a safe space look like? Or think about what could help. Take another 15 or 20 seconds. What could help? And also share it with us in the chat, please. Not to be judged. Open up in an environment where you trust people. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. To know that other people will share the feelings because they are sharing their secrets. Compassionate response. My secret being relatable. A secure space. Somebody of the same gender. Hearing others whom have been in my shoes and made it through the storm. When the taboo is normalized and there are other folks who have the same experience. Yeah. Yeah. We don't want to run out, but thank you very much that you took part in this very short exercise. Because with this exercise, we come more deeply into this situation, of disclosing and how to react. And very briefly, I want to say one thing is, which was also mentioned, is to show empathy and understanding of what the client is going through. So reassure the victim that their well-being is your primary concern. This is a very important issue and recommendation for such a situation of disclosure. Open a space to talk, meaning putting not too much pressure on the person. If a person concerns withdraw, offer to contact at any other time if the person feels more secure, and give the person the agency to come to you and take the initiative. So the person concerned may have the strength to talk to you about their situation at another time. This is also important. Then endure the narrative, meaning when the person opens up to you, endure the emotions. So as a rule, you will be maybe upset in this situation. We all know situations when people disclose something, we are upset about it, but we have to try to stay calm. Give face, meaning simply give the person a sympathetic ear, even if what is said does not seem very credible to you. There may be a kernel of truth behind it. So sometimes victims test how much they can trust you. And they seem, sometimes the narratives seem less believable, but there is always a cry for help behind it. So we should never forget it. Violence is violence, meaning victims of violence sometimes also relativize violence due to perpetrator strategy. In this situation, it is important to clearly name violence as such. And I will hand over to Oliver soon. Just the last points. Be thankful to the victim that the person trusted you. Frame the current situation as stressful, show empathy for the overwhelming life situation, but also show ways out of violence and provide room to talk and emotional support, and inform the clients about victim protection institutions, providing concrete name, providing contact information, also providing support in that sense that you set the contact if the person is too stressed about it. So
okay. So very short, just some bullet points of the post phase. What we think, first of all, it's really important afterwards to write a record, a protocol. Then it's, I skip some points only because our time is finished. We think it's also really important that you contact the victim protection institution also personally, and plan the next steps together with the victim and the victim protection institution. And stay in touch with the victim, stay in touch with the victim support organizations to make sure that the victim arrives at the victim support organization. This was our guide on how to deal with victims of violence. We also made the guide on how to deal with perpetrators. This is just a really small overview, how it looks like in the manual. We invite you to have a closer look and I hope that this is a proper tool for you to establish a multi-agency model in different regions of Europe and to empower experts of perinatal services on how to deal with situations when violence occurs in their office. So thank you very much for your attention. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Amazing. This is just so amazing. You probably already know this. Where you do know this, there is a Father's Rock website. You will be able to download all these materials for free at the Father's Rock website. You can even also sign up for a newsletter. The team will drop you the link in the chat. Just amazing materials to take out here. And if you have questions for Oliver or Ellie, please drop them in the chat. They are not lost. We will have one more panel and then go into another Q&A session where we can address all your questions. For the next panel, if you have ever dabbled in gender-based violence research in Europe, you know the name, a giant on whose shoulders we stand. I'm able to give the word to Dr. Marianne Hester, who serves as an expert advisor to the Father's Rock project. And Marianne Hester will introduce her panelists, Michaela Gosch from the Styrian Association of Women's Shelters and Rosa Barone from Codice Rosa, Toscana, in more detail. There will be some consecutive translation for Rosa by Elena Gacciotto from the WWP team, so thank you and be prepared. I hope you're still working with your 3 dots on the top of the page to get your transcriptions in the language you prefer. But back to giant, grand dame of gender-based violence research in Europe, and the world, Dr. Marianne Hester. She is Professor Emeritus in Gender Violence and International Policy at the University of Bristol, UK. She has many, many years of experience in researching gender-based violence internationally and tackling violence and abuse, including domestic and sexual violence. Please enlighten us, dear panel, on how to engage men without disempowering women. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniela. A bit difficult to live up to this giant kind of outline, but anyway, especially when I look so tiny on the screen as well. Anyway, this panel, I think is quite a key kind of issue, and thank you so much for inviting me to take part in this and to take part in the Father's Rock project, which has been very, very interesting project, and of course it's dealing with what are very tricky questions and issues that others have been talking about, this thing of how to engage fathers but at the same time not to disempower mothers, which is quite a problematic kind of area. And at the same time, what we've seen in the work is how the project has been able to create change, that it's been difficult to create change, but where it has been done, you also see that there's very positive feedback from some of the shifts that have been made. So a very, very important project. And what we're going to focus on in this panel is this issue around engaging men without disempowering women, but also looking at that in relation to institutional challenges. So, as Daniela pointed out, we have two wonderful participants of this panel. There's Rosa Barone, who's a social worker of Kudici Rosa, I think I might be pronouncing that wrong, but it's a social health network for the protection of victims of violence. And she has the role of coordinator of the territorial network Kudici Rosa for Central Tuscany. After graduating with a master's degree in social service sciences, Rosa obtained a university master's degree in Kudici Rosa as a new model for taking care of victims of violence. So again, really key that was a sort of central part of her academic work. And she's a very long experience of working in the area of child protection and countering violence. And she's also been the president of Social Workers Association of Tuscany since 2021. And she'll talk about involvement with the Father's Rock project specifically. And then we've got Michaela Gosch, who is the managing director of the Frauenhäuser Steiermark and in Austria, and the Styrian, and so it's the Styrian Women's Shelters Association, translated. And that's a role she's had since 2008. She's also got high-level education. She's got an MBA from the Vienna University of Economics and Business, and also previously worked in the Office for Gender Equality and the Advancement for Women at the Technical University of Graz. And she'll talk about the Styrian GIF project on violence prevention. But I'm also quite interested to see that the Styrian Frauenhäuser Steiermark, that you're also involved with youth work around football. So obviously engaging with other aspects around masculinities as well. Anyway, I shall hand over to them. So first of all, Rosa, if you will start, and Ilana Ginjotti will do the
Hang on, can
translation.
I just step in, because I think on the program it said that I can start because I'm actually in the meeting at the ministry and I just need to go back after my talk. I'm really sorry to interrupt.
No problem, we will just change it around. Okay.
Thank you. So, can I start now? Right? So, first of all,
therefore, Michi, can you please start? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm really sorry. It's all a bit improvised because it was on very short notice. I'm at the ministry at the moment, and I can't guarantee that nobody's walking through while I'm talking. So I will give my short presentation or my short talk, and I need to leave the meeting afterwards. So for any questions, I think everybody at Work with Perpetrators has my contact details, my phone number, my email address. So please feel free to contact me if you've got any questions left after my talk. So I will introduce a program that's called GIF, Gewaltprävention im Familiensetting in German, and it's kind of violence prevention with a whole family approach. We started this project in 2018 together with the Men's Counseling Center and also with the Probation Service, and the Children Protection Center joined the program 2 years ago. Why did we start the program in the first place was because now, as a managing director in the shelter for 15 years, I've witnessed many women go back, go back into their relationship, just go back to the perpetrator, take the children back to the perpetrator and into this violent situation. And we just thought, well, if that's the case, then our kind of what we need to do is just to help them or protect them while they are going back, and we can't do that without working with the perpetrators as well. So that's why that was the initially thought of why we started this program in the very first place. So what does the program involve, or include the program? What measures do we offer? The measures are that we are, we try to connect the whole case from the view of the victim. So the starting point was, at least when we began in 2018, the only point where this program could start was when the victim in the shelter, living in the shelter with us, said that he would want to participate in this program. And we asked her if it's fine with her that we would contact the perpetrator. We did this ourselves. We have the Styrian Women's Shelter also have a mixed gender team in the shelter. So we had male employees, male colleagues, who just contacted the perpetrator in the very first place and asked him if it's all right that a colleague from the men's counseling center is going to talk to him about the situation. That was the beginning, but it only could have been started when the client, the woman living in the shelter, wanted to participate in this program. Then the program includes different kind of measures. The first measure is that we just, of course, work on a exclusive basis in the shelter with the victim, and on the other hand, the men's counseling center is working with the perpetrator, talk about the case, talk about the violent situation, and see if it's possible to go further in different measures or in other measures that would follow the first one. So that means there's always a risk assessment, of course. There needs to be a risk assessment that we do in the shelter together with the men's counseling center and see if the risk is kind of allows to go to the further steps. And the other thing is that every step we take, every further measure is going through our team. So we do have regular teams, monthly teams, where we talk about each case. And as a team together, which means all women shelter workers, all workers from Men's Counseling Center who are part of this program, all members and colleagues of the Child Protection Center, we sit together, talk about each case and decide what are the next measures. So that's very important. At the beginning, we tried to come up with rules where we say exclusive rules when, for example, I don't know, we need to, very special rule is the perpetrator needs to take over responsibility for what he did. At the beginning, we were kind of very strict, and then realized it's very hard because how much responsibility is necessary to go on with the program, and how much can we just does he need to take over the whole responsibility? In that case, we probably would rarely have gotten anywhere further because it's not very common that perpetrators come along and say, yeah, I did all of that. They just say they did part of it, and so we just decided that we have a few exclusive rules, but not very many, and we came to the conclusion mostly we decide in the team what kind of measures can be taken, and depends on the expertise of all the different workers from the Child Protection Center, from the Men's Counseling Center, and of course from the shelter. There's a set of rules that's given by the DV OTA, which is the umbrella organization in Austria, where victim support organizations and men's counseling centers and work with perpetrator organizations and children support organizations are working together in an umbrella organization. And we also developed some kind of rules, some kind of, in which cases we can do couple talks, and couple talks are a very big measure in our GIF project. So it all comes back into this set of rules that were kind of worked out on the umbrella organization, and this is also the guideline for this project. So if we say in a team, okay, we can go further than this kind of exclusively separate talks to the victim and the perpetrator and the children, then there are a few more things that we can offer. First of all, are couple talks. It's not a couple therapy, it's very important. We're not therapists, we're not trying to work at the couple situation. What we are trying to work on is the violent prevention situation, how to prevent violence in the future, and on the child welfare and children's protection. The protection of the children, that's our main focus, how to prevent violence in the whole family system, because what we know in the shelter after that this kind of family system in lots of cases stays as a system. Whether the victim is going back to the perpetrator or not is just one point. But when there are children, they stay together as parents because the law, at least in Austria, gives shared custody as on regular basis, even when it comes to violence. So we know that this kind of family system keep going, and we try to be part of it and try to make sure, just try to make sure as sure as possible, as much as we can do, to prevent further violence. So this couple talks focuses on violence prevention and on let's say child welfare in this whole family situation. And 2 years ago, at the beginning we just had couple talks, and 2 years ago we just installed family talks, which means children can also participate in these talks. They can do it themselves if the expert in the child protection center says it's possible, and if they want to, and if the age is all right, and if the risk is all right. But if they don't want to participate themselves in these family talks, then the expert from the child or children protection center will take their place and talk to the parents and tell the parents the side of the view of the children, and what children feel and what their children want and what the need of the children in these special situations are. And this kind of family talks can be in a setting where the victim, the perpetrator, and the child, and sometimes translators will be there, or it can be exclusively like the child protection member is talking to the perpetrator, or she's talking to the mother, and then we go back and fill it together in this kind of team meeting, talk about the whole case, but without parents need to meet in a couple talk. So there are all different varieties possible in this kind of project. When we started, it was exclusively for members or for clients in the Graz Women's Shelter, and we just realized that there is lots of need for things like that, especially for the youth and children welfare system in Austria, to kind of set actions in families afflicted by violence, where even if the client or if the victim doesn't want to be in a shelter. So we tried to expand our projects, and now we are going to offer this kind of couple talks and all the measures in our project, even for clients who are not going to the shelter. But if the youth welfare system are referring them to us, or even the court refers sometimes in a kind of custody program, if in custody law case, to our program. So but this is more difficult. We just realized very quickly it's much easier to work in a couple where violence is a problem if the client is in the shelter, because you've always got this safe space. If the couple is out there and they go back after the talks, it's much more complicated to do the risk assessment, to find the right measures. And I mean, all I can say is it depends on the trust. It depends on the trust that you have different organizations into each other. We really talk every case from the very beginning to the very end. We are very open with each other, with the Men's Counseling Center, with the Child Protection Center, and try to figure out together the best kind of way to deal in this case with this family system. So this program is now, it's been in force for more than 6 years, or for 6 years, and we just realized at the beginning we were just kind of scared that men wouldn't participate because it's completely voluntarily, unless sometimes the child and youth welfare system just put some pressure on the parents, but there's no legal binding, so they can come to us if they want, or if they don't. If they don't want, then we can't do anything about it. And what was really kind of interesting for us is that perpetrators with a very high rate just wanted to take place in this program, wanted to be part of this program. I think we try to put this program in action in nearly every case now where children are involved, because we just realize it makes really sense to just kind of work with the whole system for the children's welfare. And about 90% of perpetrators, or more than 90% of perpetrators, are kind of willing to be part of this project in the first step. Doesn't mean that they be part of the project through all the time or for a very long time, but they are kind of all right to let Men's Counseling Center contact them, to have a first talk to them, to just talk about this problem, even if it's briefly, but they got in contact with with the counseling center, which for us is very important, because I think we can't change things if we don't if it's not possible to just, talk to perpetrators. So,
thank you. Just because you're going, can I just quickly ask you about the very small children and the, where women have recently had babies? What's the experience there? Just super quickly.
The experience with what? Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Where women have just had babies, or where the children are very small, which is kind of what we are, very interested in as well.
Yeah, they also. You mean they also can be part of this program? In that case, we don't work with the children directly, of course, but also with the Child Protection Center. We always involve them in any case, and always try to give the parents or give the victim and the perpetrator a kind of insight in what children are experiencing, what children are feeling. So there is no age disclosure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So for any further questions, please feel free to contact me. I really need to go back to the meeting now, and I hope the rest of your meeting is going well. Bye.
Thank you, Mrs. Thank you very much.
Bye.
A very interesting overview and very, very practical, which I think is useful for us, taking us all the way through and really looking at this issue of how to, keep the women's safety there as well. I think kind of as well as the children's safety, quite centrally all the time. But I also think, this very, very difficult issue around custody and contact the children, where I think we need to come back to that issue as well. Look at what happens in those kind of situations, which Michi also talked about. So I want to move on and ask Rosa to talk about their experience of working with the Father's Rock project, and I hand over to you. Thank you.
Grazie. Mi sentite intanto?
Sì, sentiamo.
Bene, grazie. Ringrazio e mi scuso per la barriera linguistica, che per me è stata una sofferenza tutto il giorno, perché vi ho ascoltati e ho capito pochissimo, ma ho cercato comunque di portare a casa qualcosa di questa esperienza.
So thank you for inviting me, and I'm sorry for this language barrier that has, been an obstacle for me all day long, because I tried to follow along, but, I didn't understand much of what was said, but I'm trying to take home as much as I can from this experience.
Allora, il contributo di Father Rock, voglio portare questa testimonianza dello sviluppo del progetto dentro una rete di contrasto alla violenza che è la rete Codice Rosa. È una rete a supporto dell'emersione della violenza che vede coinvolti tutti i servizi sanitari e sociosanitari della regione toscana, quindi medici, infermieri, assistenti sociali, psicologi, eccetera.
So I want to, give my contribution about the development of the Father's Rock project within the Codice Rosa network, which stands for Pink Code Network of Regione Toscana, Tuscany region in Italy, which is a network for the immersion of violence, for the detection of violence that involves all the sanitary professions like doctors, nurses, social workers, and so on.
Ok, il progetto ha avuto un risultato, un valore che va oltre il risultato quantitativo, ed è per questo che voglio condividere con voi una riflessione. Oltre il risultato quantitativo di operatori coinvolti, che comunque sono stati tanti, e di uomini coinvolti nel progetto.
So the value of the Father's Rock project goes far beyond the numbers, the quantitative outcomes, and it is reflected in not only in the numbers of professionals and men that were involved during the activities.
Perché in Italia, mentre stiamo registrando una forte emersione della violenza, anche grazie alla risposta delle istituzioni, nello stesso tempo registriamo una risposta di tipo prevalentemente riparativo per le vittime e di tipo repressivo per gli autori.
So in Italy, we are amidst a growing trend of violence, but also, a growing detection of the phenomenon of violence. But the response from the institutions and services is mostly of two typologies. It is reparative for victims and repressive for perpetrators.
Ancora c'è una difficoltà ad affrontare il tema della violenza maschile sulle donne nella vera matrice, che è quella culturale. Lo affermiamo, lo diciamo, ma nei fatti questo non si traduce.
So it is still difficult to tackle male violence against women and to address its root cause within the cultural matrix. We talk about it, we proclaim it, but we really struggle to put it into practice.
E questo non solo nel senso comune, ma proprio anche all'interno dei servizi, e quindi quando andiamo a verificare troviamo tantissime resistenze.
And this is not just among the people, common knowledge, but it is also within the services where we find lots of resistance.
E Father Rock, il primo merito che ha dimostrato di avere è proprio quello di avere la capacità di incidere su queste resistenze degli operatori, e per questo è assolutamente una buona pratica.
So one of the, biggest merits of Father's Rock is that it is effective in, working on the resistances of the professionals within the services. And this is something that is really important.
Abbiamo condiviso una scelta di piccoli passi, di gradualità, e anche questa è stata una scelta metodologica importante, perché abbiamo lavorato su piccoli gruppi di operatori, operatrici, quelli più pronti, diciamo, ad affrontare la problematica. Su quelli abbiamo costruito percorsi di formazione e poi siamo andati a definire il progetto, che a quel punto è un progetto condiviso, coprogettato, ecco, è nato dalla collaborazione di tutti gli operatori.
So we decided to take a step-by-step, a gradual approach into this process. So we decided to start by working with small groups of professionals, choosing the ones that were more ready to work on this topic. And we did a capacity building and training with them. And then we defined the project based on this.
Quindi il progetto è stato il risultato di un percorso di co-costruzione che ha garantito una cosa fondamentale, la praticabilità, cioè il fatto che il progetto potesse essere messo in pratica da subito dentro i contesti organizzativi ed operativi. Questa è stata una chiave fondamentale, perché non abbiamo portato nei servizi obiettivi non raggiungibili. È stato da subito un progetto che abbiamo potuto inserire nell'organizzazione dei servizi, in questo caso dei consultori.
So the project was the outcome of a collaborative process of both sharing and co-construction of goals, and this guaranteed the feasibility of all the actions that were carried out and ensured that all the actions were immediately applicable within the services themselves. So this is the key of the success of the project, because we did not set goals that were impossible to reach, but we set small action that could be integrated into the practice of the organizations without too much effort.
Nello stesso tempo, quello che ha seguito la realizzazione dei progetti è stato di fondamentale importanza quanto la costruzione, perché il successo, il fatto che gli uomini abbiano potuto partecipare ai gruppi organizzati nei consultori ha costituito un rinforzo sugli operatori, perché hanno potuto vedere una cosa semplice, che è possibile, che gli uomini, se ci sono le proposte, aderiscono, e molto molto volentieri e con molta soddisfazione.
So beyond this, one of the other success factors of the project was the fact that we had men participating in the groups organized within the social services, which are called consultori in Italy, and their participation reinforced in the professionals the idea and the knowledge that if men are engaged in good activities, they will in fact join, and this is really important.
Quindi il progetto ha avuto il merito non solo di decostruire dei modelli operativi stereotipati, ma anche di rinforzare nuove pratiche operative orientate a recuperare il punto di vista del cambiamento degli uomini in un'ottica di prevenzione della violenza.
So the project also had the merit of deconstructing stereotyped operational models, and at the same time, it reinforced new operational practices. And these practices seek to include the perspective of men's change in a preventive approach to violence.
Hanno potuto sperimentare nelle cose che normalmente si fanno nei consultori, quindi la consegna del libretto di gravidanza, le visite, i gruppi, eccetera. In tutto si è tenuto il punto di vista anche dei futuri padri e hanno potuto sperimentare anche come, quando le madri non sono disponibili ad aprirsi al coinvolgimento dei futuri padri, dei partner, questo è già un indicatore che consente agli operatori di lavorare sulla prevenzione della violenza.
So, frontline professionals had the chance to see that it is possible to involve men and fathers in all the steps. So from handing them the pregnancy booklet or to involving them during the pregnancy visits or in groups, this allowed professionals to keep into consideration also the point of view of the fathers. And in those cases where women were a bit resistant to involve the fathers in the process, this allowed professionals to recognize early signs of possible violence.
Quindi Father Rock in Italia si è dimostrato una buona prassi da diffondere perché fa una cosa semplice ma fondamentale, chiede agli operatori dei servizi socio-sanitari di prendersi la propria parte di responsabilità sul cambiamento, sostenendo i padri per renderli più partecipi al ruolo genitoriale, un ruolo genitoriale nuovo, pensato con occhi nuovi.
Father's Rock is proved to be really a good practice in Italy. And it is maybe in some instances something that is simple, but it is fundamental because Father's Rock also asks professionals to take their role, to take the responsibility in the change, in the general change of men's behavior. And this is by making men more participative to the process.
Ora la sfida che abbiamo è quello di continuare a proporre il progetto, ma la sfida è quello di farne un sistema, cioè di farlo entrare in una nuova logica di sistema dentro la cultura dei servizi. E questa è davvero la sfida più grande, penso in Italia, probabilmente in tutti gli altri paesi. Ci sono tante buone pratiche che poi non riusciamo a far diventare sistema nella cultura dei servizi. Quindi forse l'obiettivo su cui dobbiamo lavorare, e sicuramente noi continueremo a lavorare con il CAM, perché questo possa diventare un progetto che entri nel sistema di funzionamento dei servizi della Regione Toscana.
Now, the challenge is to take this experimental project and make it become not just a good practice, but make it become part of the system, of the social health systems, and to integrate it into the services that are already existing. This, I think, it's a challenge both in Italy and in the other countries that were involved. But we really have, sometimes we see a lot of good things, good practices that then struggle to become part of the system. So this is the goal of our work together with CAM. So again, it is to make these activities part of the system.
Concludo dicendo, ci accompagna la consapevolezza che senza questo sguardo non ci saranno politiche di contrasto alla violenza e non ci sarà una vera prevenzione della violenza maschile sulle donne. e quindi continuiamo su questo solco.
I want to conclude my presentation by saying that if we don't take this perspective, there will be no change and there will be no effective impact on violence against women. So this is what we need to work on for the future.
Thank you very much, Rosa and Elena. Can I ask you questions in English or do you want them translated?
Traduco io. Sì.
So I just want to say that, of course, what you're describing, it's very important, but it is also, as we know, builds on really long-term research, which shows that where you use professional practice as it exists and then build on it. You don't tell people to completely change, but you build on existing practice and you also embed the practice experientially through them trying it out and also through them, the men trying these things out. We have research, a lot of research now that shows that kind of process, of course, is the very better process for trying to create change. And it's good to see that also did work with the Father's Rock.
Sì, quello che hai detto è stato molto importante e ci sono notevoli ricerche che dicono che quando si va a integrare delle attività nella pratica professionale, senza stravolgere la pratica o aggiungere cose nuove, ma si va a integrare nuovi processi tramite soprattutto delle attività esperienziali, allora si riesce davvero a costruire qualcosa di efficace. E sembra che questo sia stato proprio il processo che è stato adottato in Codice Rosa e nella vostra esperienza.
Confermo, è proprio così, perché noi possiamo sollecitare le cose giuste, ma i contesti organizzativi hanno delle proprie regole di funzionamento e quindi bisogna incidere su quelle regole a partire proprio dagli stereotipi organizzativi e degli operatori e accompagnare il processo, altrimenti noi facciamo l'errore sempre lo stesso che chiediamo agli operatori di fare un cambiamento, chiediamo agli uomini di fare un cambiamento, ma non ci mettiamo nella condizione di accompagnare il cambiamento. Invece il cambiamento va guidato, va accompagnato e va sostenuto, altrimenti non si realizza.
Yes, what you said, Marianne, is right, and I agree completely. This is something that is really important because sometimes we ask professionals to, adopt new perspective, to change, but we need to take in considerations that services and professionals have their rules of functioning, and we need to work on those rules. So we need to work starting by the organizational stereotypes, but also taking into consideration the professionals' stereotypes that they might have. So if we want to bring on change, both in the professionals' practice and in men, we need to support and accompany this change and this process.
Yeah, and then just a final, the kind of central difficult question, which is, you talk about then including men's perspectives, incorporating men as fathers, but how do we do that without creating, how do we make this change without just creating a new normal where men are still trying to take control in their new roles and continuing violence and abuse in their new roles, so that we just create, a shift from the traditional father to engaged fatherhood, but where engaged fatherhood can also be violent and abusive. That's the tricky one, isn't it?
Quindi una domanda adesso un po' più complicata, perché ci sono degli aspetti un po' appunto complicati, che quello noi stiamo parlando di includere questa nuova le prospettive degli uomini quindi di tenerla in considerazione. E stiamo cercando di portare avanti questo cambiamento. La cosa più complicata è come possiamo portare avanti questo cambiamento, includere la prospettiva degli uomini, includere nel processo, creando una nuovo normale di uomo che è coinvolto, se poi sono uomini violenti che portiamo all'interno di questo nuovo processo di coinvolgimento. Quindi passiamo dalla figura tradizionale del padre a una figura di padre coinvolto che poi è anche violento.
Non ho capito bene la domanda, nel senso, qual è la difficoltà? Il fatto che a fare questo cambiamento sia la rete Codice Rosa che quindi propone esperienze di violenza?
Marianne, can you repeat or rephrase your question?
Okay, how do we make this shift from to fathers becoming engaged without men just creating an engaged fatherhood model that is still violent and abusive, men just taking control over fatherhood as well as motherhood? Does that make sense? So they would still be it doesn't becoming engaged doesn't stop violence and abuse, but they could become a different type of father, but still controlling and deciding they now know more about parenthood than she does, because now they know more about fatherhood. So how do we ensure that actually we don't just create a new form of violent fatherhood?
Quindi non so se hai capito, Rosa, la domanda è questa: come facciamo? Noi con questo processo di coinvolgimento degli uomini arriviamo a creare una figura di padre che è più coinvolto nel processo. Come facciamo a essere, dobbiamo stare attenti che questi padri più coinvolti poi potrebbero essere comunque violenti, quindi come possiamo evitare che ci sia comunque da parte di questi padri, nuovi padri coinvolti, questa violenza?
Ma intanto, se non cominciamo a decostruire i modelli di relazione all'interno delle coppie, tutto il resto sarà complicato, no? Quindi intanto dobbiamo smontare delle cose che abbiamo capito che sicuramente incidono sulle relazioni maltrattanti, e quindi questa è una prima cosa. Quello che sarà del nuovo funzionamento, perché capisco che ci sarà una costruzione di figure nuove che dovranno ribilanciarsi in nuove relazioni di bilanciamento anche dentro le coppie tra uomo e donna, no? Quindi una nuova cultura su cui andremo a costruire. Però di sicuro quella attuale, il modello attuale su cui sono costruite le relazioni, sono modelli che producono relazioni maltrattanti, almeno da noi questo è stato chiaro. Quindi che dobbiamo decostruire quelli per costruirne dei nuovi, accompagnando questi processi. Questo, come dire, è una fase nuova su cui andremo a costruire, ma intanto l'accompagnamento è in questa logica qui. Non so se è veramente una domanda complessa, no, di prospettiva, ma bisogna partire dal decostruire dalla proposta di nuovi modelli, e lì uomini e donne ricostruiranno, secondo me, nuovi schemi di costruzione di relazioni della coppia.
So the first step to avoid this is to deconstruct the models of couple relationships that we have at the moment. So we need to go and work on the elements that impact on relationships and that create abusive relationships. So it's important that men and women find a new balance within their relationship. And again, we need to produce new models, deconstruct existing models, produce and construct new models to overcome this situation. And this is the new phase of work that we need to face.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've run out of time. Daniela will tell us, I think. But thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
You are perfectly
Grazie.
fine. Thank you so much for an amazing, inspiring panel. We do have some time for a Q&A still. So all the panelists and presenters will be brought on for you to ask questions. We had a comment in terms of that is such an interesting question Marianne raised about how does it not flip to the other side, men now taking control to engaged fatherhood, which kind of prompts me to think what we need is more feminism. We need a worldview that is collaborative, right? And where we are team players and where we are not cemented into hierarchies. We have a comment in the chat too that there is research showing that engaged fatherhood lowers testosterone levels. Very interesting, never heard. We should follow up. But there is also mixed findings in the chat now. We should follow up and see what the research is. We have a couple of questions, one from earlier. So, and they are big questions. I'm not sure who feels moved to answer. The question is, how do you change stereotypes when they run as deep as having manifested as moral beliefs that are widely shared in our society? How can we change stereotypes that have manifested as deep moral beliefs?
Maybe here we could give an answer from referring to another project. Is it okay for you? Yeah.
Please, please.
We work at our Institute for Masculinity Research. We work on the concept of caring masculinities, meaning men taking caring relations seriously, not only fathers taking care for the kids, but also taking care for sick relatives, taking care for colleagues in the working environment, and taking care on an attitudinal level, meaning becoming allies in the process of gender equality, critically reflecting men's privileges, and taking a step towards gender-based violence prevention. So we do have projects where we try to focus on this concept in the very beginning of our lives. For example, we have a project, it's called Early Care and the Role of Man. And in this project, we developed, based on research, we developed picture books, songs for kindergarten, for working with very, very young children, reflecting the concept of caring masculinities, showing or also reflecting about other emotions than anger and aggression, reflecting about shame or sadness or whatever. So those emotions that are, I would say, always critical when we talk about traditional concepts of masculinity. So with this kind of material, we go into kindergarten, we go into schools and try to widen the concept of care also. So focusing on the point that, for example, care is a task that is related to all genders, and also focusing on the concept of a masculinity that is very much concentrated on care, on relations, on empathy, on these issues. So this is how, I mean, this is a very small drop, I know, on the stone, but it is how we go on and how we try to go on with this stereotype deeply rooted in our societies. Just an example. And one more example I would like to say is we develop change agent programs. So we educate children to work with younger children on the issue on masculinity, peaceful masculinity, peaceable masculinity, men taking a step against gender-based violence and for gender equality. And I think it's an important work.
That's amazing. And like everything in this project, the answer is also so amazingly practical. It's thank you for making these huge and abstract concepts, really tangible. I would like to give Rosa an opportunity to say a few words if she wants her ideas or impressions on making on transforming stereotypes, disrupting stereotypes that are so deeply rooted.
Rosa, se puoi intervenire anche tu sulla questione di questi stereotipi che sono fortemente radicati.
Cosa serve per cambiarli? La domanda è una rivoluzione, serve per cambiarli. serve, serve andare, provare a fare prevenzione primaria nelle scuole, tutto quello che penso abbiate detto, anche se io ho difficoltà nel comprendere pienamente. Però io ho una convinzione che la realtà si modifica anche per, come dire, se io vedo padri con la carrozzina, se io che portano i bambini e li vedo e diventano normalità, se io vedo i padri dentro i consultori perché sono chiamati e cominciano ad abitare certi servizi che oggi non ne vedi neanche uno, se io li vedo accompagnare per tutte le visite la donna incinta, se li vedo nelle scuole che vanno a sentire come vanno i bambini a scuola, se si sostituiscono alla cura dei propri anziani, cioè se moltiplichiamo queste cose nella società, nella normalità e cominciamo a vederle, quello è il veicolo più forte, perché il rinforzo che dà la possibilità a molti ragazzi, io sono convinta che molti ragazzi hanno già una sensibilità diversa, ma che sono prigionieri loro stessi, se non gli facciamo vedere che è possibile un cambiamento, se non lo legittimiamo, ecco. Secondo me la chiave è proprio rendere queste esperienze visibili alla società perché funzionano da rinforzo. Se tutti facessimo questo, probabilmente si crea quel piccolo movimento, diciamo, di scossa che può generare il cambiamento.
Okay, so what do we need? We need a revolution to break down the stereotypes. Actually, yes, primary prevention in schools is fundamental, like we said, but there is some other things that I believe are really important. And if we want to see the reality change, we need to start from maybe other factors. And that would be, for example, seeing fathers going around with the strollers with their babies. It would be seeing men and fathers in the what we call them women consulting services, to see fathers taking their partners to OBGYN visits during pregnancy, or seeing them going to school for parents teachers meetings, or seeing them taking care of their elderly. So when this becomes normal, when we see this as something that happens normally, this would also allow young people to see that change is possible, that this is normal. And so we need to make all of this visible to create some sort of shock and, break down stereotypes.
Love it. What an amazing final word for this part of the program. Thank you very much to the panelists and also the facilitator. Thank you very much. Now, participants, audience, it is time to really look in the chat. First, Ellie Scambo has posted some links and resources to what she was referring to. I think everyone, you still have opportunity to leave messages in the chat for the organizers. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for working towards social transformation and good social change in all of your communities and countries. I hope to see you again at another occasion, talking about caring masculinities, talking about gender justice and the good life. Have a wonderful day. please don't forget to fill out that evaluation. And thank you for coming.